Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto awakens the soul bloodline in the forest of death harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Seoras and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. What have we done? The time was midnight. A little boy in his first year of the academy was tossing and turning in his sleep, as nightmares plagued his sleep. Shivering, the little one attempted to wrap his threadbare, thin and holy blanket closer, hoping for more heat in the cold cellar of the orphanage he was living in. The walls were leaking and weeping water from the deluge that had set in over the village for the past 24 hours, causing puddles to form in the cold dark expanse that had no in except for the small cot that the child slept in. As he slept in a soundless agony as his mind plagued him with nightmares, the red-headed boy was none the wiser of the evil machinations that were taking place just the other side of the cellar door. Slowly the door swung open with a thud as it slammed against the door. 4 men soon walked into the room with sick and twisted grins plastering their faces as they thought of the punishment they were about to dole out on the monster that had taken everything away from them. After all, who would care if they roughed up the village's Jinchuriki? He was the creature that had killed thousands of Leaf Village residents, indiscriminately. One of the men allowed a long tongue to loll out of his mouth for a moment, as he thought of the power he would be bestowing on the so-called demon of the hidden leaf. And one day in the future he would become a good candidate for a new host body for his soul. Enjoying the fact that everyone was none the wiser that he, Orochimaru, was back in the village attempting to put all the pieces in place to manipulate the Nine Tails Jinchuriki to his cause. But for now, what better way to get revenge on the man who trained him and the man whom had stolen his title as 4th Hokage? Beat his sensei's newest weapon to within an inch of death. And beating the son of the man who had stolen his position as Kage of the Leaf Village. Yes, this revenge was going to be sweet indeed. Standing off to one side, he grinned with a sadistic glee as he watched the first blow connect with the sleeping child's midriff. Waking up at the pain that shot through his body, racking him with pain and making the small 6-year-old cough blood for a second. Looking about, his eyes widened in fear as he saw 5 deranged sets of eyes staring at him, all chuckling sickeningly at what they had done and what they were about to do to him. Raising his hands up to cover his face, he let off a scream as the blows suddenly came down thick and fast. Iruka, standing in front of his class for the second day in a row, frowned when he noted that Naruto was absent again from class, which was strange. While he would freely admit he wasn't the boy's biggest fan and still held some resentment towards him for holding the beast that had killed his parents and taken everything from him 6 years ago. But it was truly strange. Naruto hadn't missed a day of the academy all year and was showing signs of true potential and promised to be a good shinobi and a possible top 5 academy ranking by the time he graduated. But for the boy to miss 2 days of the academy was truly strange. Resolving himself to speak with the Hokage and find out if Naruto was alright, continued to teach his class, completely unaware of what the Hokage was about to uncover in the next few hours. Yes, Sakura, what's your question? Hiruzen, sitting in his office, growled in frustration as he searched high and low with his crystal ball, hoping to find the lovable red head that was red and purple-eyed carbon copy of his father and mother. Growling in frustration at how a 6-year-old could possibly evade his sight for so long, cleared his throat Umbu. As he said that, 4 figures appeared in front of him, all knelt in a perfect line awaiting his orders. These were his 4 best Umbu. And for the sake of appearance, and in an attempt to promote gender equality in his ranks at the behest of a partition put together by the females in his shinobi forces, had 2 of the best female Umbu he could find to fill in the positions that Inu and Itachi had left with their respective departures of the force. Both of them were very young, looking at the 2 purple-haired women who ironically both wore cat-themed Umbu masks. The other 2 members were men, and possessed black and brown hair respectively. Tenzo with his lion mask and Washi with his owl mask, a Hyuga very helpful when it came to perceiving dangers before they came to pass. I need the 4 of you to find Naruto for me and bring him to me. I'd like to know why he has been skipping out on his academy lessons. All at the same time, with little to no inflection in their voices, replied, Yes, Lord Hokage. Watching as they collectively disappeared in a cloud of smoke, took a long pull on his pipe before adding to the slowly dispersing cloud that 4 body flickers left behind. I just hope nothing bad has happened to you. Naruto, where are you? Gazuru and Yugao, who had a rivalry of sorts due to the fact they were both kenjutsu practitioners. Not to mention they were cousins, hence the similar looks due to their mothers being sisters. Gazuru looked at her 3 fellow teammates as they ran along, scanning the area in which they were currently searching for Naruto, with the first place they checked being the Ichiraku ramen stand in the entertainment district of the village. Should we not check the orphanage where he resides? It's a long shot, but completely worth the trouble of checking. He could just be sick and the Hokage's just jumping at shadows. Looking at Washi, Tenzo, who was the captain of the Umbu who guarded the Hokage, nodded. Alright, G-Cat. You and Washi will check the orphanage and act according to your own discretion. Me and Y-Cat will comb the training grounds where Lord Hokage has found him before. If we turn up nothing, we'll converge on the Hokage monument, and hope he's there, otherwise we'll comb the red light, followed by residential and clan areas before finally checking the merchant districts and market area. Nodding, the 4 Umbu darted off in opposite directions. Sitting safely away in an underground cavern decorated to look like a science lab, tables littered with vials and various paper covered in notes, large tubes filled with water with corpses floating in them, Orochimaru grinned a little. Maha, let's see what you do, Uzumaki. Run and hide like a dog or come to me for power and learn how to wield the cursed seal of demons. Holding the ram seal just to attempt to sense out his newest curse seal user. The snake-like man licked his lips in anticipation as he stared out over his underground lab. Well, it seems like the seal is taking a little longer to adapt to his body. No matter, despite his Uzumaki lineage. His chakra and will be no match for mine. Pushing himself out of his seat, the slippery snake Sannin began to leave his lab. I wonder, which prisoner should I experiment on next? Gazuru and Washi, getting to the orphanage, stood in one of the trees next to the orphanage. Looking at her Hyuga partner for this mission, she watched as he did the quick hand sign and activated his Byakugan to scan the building quickly. Oh shit! Hearing her partner curse, she was more than surprised when her usually stoic male counterpart dropped from the tree and bolted towards the front entrance, which admitted was a paper door, being an old Warring Clan era construction purely because none of the orphanages were able to afford better accommodation. That, and whenever it was brought up at council meetings, well, the ones she had been able to sit in on, most of the civilian representatives and Hokage advisors were of a mind that it made them stronger, which was a benefit in the long run for the village. The shinobi clans, however, argued that it would only breed dissent among the new generations of shinobi that had to live in such squalor and poverty. She had to admit herself she was happy that her mother chose not to be a kunoichi. It meant she always had at least one parent at home. It was how she got so close to her cousin Yugao. Both her parents were jonin and were off on missions most of the time, so she would always be at her place, and they would study and train together. It was how they were both drafted into the Umbu straight out of the academy instead of being placed on teams. She honestly couldn't imagine living in poverty. Dropping down from the tree, she was shocked when Washi didn't bother pulling the door to one side and barreled through, shouting at various people to clear out the way. Finally realizing the situation was indeed dire, she went straight to her radio. Kitty, Taicho. This is Cat, over? This is Tenzo, we read you, copy. Ignoring the trepidation that was creeping into her stomach at this point, as she realized that Washi was head straight for the cellar entrance, we found him. But it doesn't look good according to Washi reaction. We're about to make contact, stand by. Copy. On standby. Hearing that and bringing out her tactical flashlight that was standard issue, she clicked it on as Washi pushed the wooden door open and stepped in. With her light illuminating the room, she and Washi were covered in a wave of foul stench that hit them like a wave so powerfully that the charcoal filters built into the masks had difficulty dealing with it. Gagging a little, she saw Washi dart to the corner of the room and lift the bottom of his mask up and vomit up his breakfast and lunch. Moving her flashlight around, she allowed her eyes to widen in shock, which slowly turned to horror as she saw the edge of what looked to be a pool of blood. Twisting the end of her light, she made the light beam wider and almost screamed in horror and sheer fright at the sight she was bearing witness to. Blood was everywhere, the floor, walls, even the ceiling. Focusing on the body of the child that lay on the small cot in the middle of the room, she quickly lifted the bottom of her mask and understood why Washi threw up like he did. He was hardly recognizable. He was a bloody mess. Grotesque would be the right word, and yet his chest was still moving up and down along with a wheezing sound. Eyes swollen shut and crusted with blood and gore, bloody spit and drool bubbling from his slack jaws with every breath. Arms bent at multiple random angles with bones jutting out of his skin, blood oozing out of the ruptures in the skin. Beautiful dark bruising covering his torso mixed with blood and possibly bone fragments. The smell was coming from the boy's own shit and piss. Obviously his body had thought it was going to die and had loosened his bowels. His legs much the same state as his arms. She didn't want to think of all the internal injuries he possibly had at this point, it was just too much. Washi, who had composed himself a little, had crouched down next to the prone form and was openly crying. She could see it in his shoulders, she could understand his pain. Even she was brought to tears by this horrific scene. How could people of the village do this to him? Jinchuriki, or not, this is just so wrong. She couldn't see it, but she was sure more tears had spilled from her friend's eyes. I'll do what I can for him, but it's not going to be much. Get a medical team and inform Captain and Lord Hokage. Nodding and not being able to take her eyes off of the small boy's broken body on it. Pressing the button on her neck-mounted radio, she spoke. You're there, right, sis, you read me? Hearing her cousin's voice sound so distraught over the radio, Yugao and Tenzo didn't even bother to reprimand her for breaking protocol. Yeah, what's wrong? How's Naruto? You found him, right? All they heard for a second were a few sobs from Gazuru and the muttered sounds of Washi, hang in there or don't you dare die on me, Naruto. Oh god, it's horrible, blood everywhere. Who could do this to him? Ahohahawaha, she started breathing loudly. For the love of God, get the Hokage and a medical team to the orphanage. Please. Not one to doubt his umbu and the fact that both Washi and Gazuru were utterly distraught by the scene they had walked in on. Tenzo quickly barked down the line on it. We're en route now. He then turned to Yugao. Go the team, I'll get the Hokage. He's gonna want to be there. Yugao nodded and charged off to the hospital while Tenzo headed to the Hokage. Yugao making it to the hospital, she grabbed the nearest medical ninja. We have a level 5 emergency at the White Orchid Orphanage. I need a medical team there stat. Hokage's orders. The ninja nodded and fled down the hallway. Kinzo-sensei. Kinzo-sensei. Looking around, she saw some of the injured shinobi looked to be getting ready to defend the hospital. After all, level 5 was a level below full-blown invasion protocol. But then again, as far as the village's Jinchuriki was concerned, he was the village's future pride and joy. In fact, the Hokage had been planning on having the boy not go to the academy and train Naruto himself along with the Umbu commander. She was pretty sure that she wasn't going to be told off for using the level 5 protocol to get the best the hospital had to offer for the Jinchuriki boy, who could be just the sweetest thing. All of a sudden, she was met by the hospital head Kinzo Yakushi, along with the Hokage's personal doctor who had been in charge of all of Naruto's previous hospital visits, Tsugi Watanuki, along with all their personal assistants who were highly skilled in the medical ninja arts, and they all had one thing in common: none of them had attempted to harm Naruto. Well, that could be partially due to Tsugi being one tough woman and would probably axe a lot of them if they harmed a hair on Naruto's head. Motioning for them to follow, they took off on the roofs. Tsugi, who was around 40 years of age, sidled up alongside Yuga. Well, cat, what's the matter? Deciding to use the adorable codename that the Hokage had come up with when they needed to refer to Naruto, covertly grimaced behind her mask. Fish Cakes Down and G-Cat and Washi are all shook up pretty bad. I haven't seen it for myself yet, but they seemed distraught. Captain's gone to get Lord Hokage. Being shocked that her little fish cake could be endangered, Tsugi speed up her pace, outpacing Yugao. After all, she was an Umbu medic before retiring to the normal forces. How the hell could you allow this to happen? Gazuru screamed at the priest who had taken over the orphanage the first day Naruto had gone missing. He's just a little boy. At this point, she had grabbed the man by the front of his robes. The man's name was Seimon Aonuma. He had just replaced the previous orphanage director and had carried the first day into Naruto's disappearance. Holding his hands up by his face, trying to placate the livid Umbu had gone from hysterics that had alerted him to their presence in the cellar, which had struck him as odd. I didn't know his was down there. Shiraku-san told me it was just a leaky cellar with no other use other than for being the home of vermin. How was I to know a child lay beaten and bleeding in there? Gazuru, hearing him speak so calmly, wanted to curse him to hell for his soothing voice, and the fact he was a priest. There was no way she would strike one. Nearly all religious men and women who wore the cloth of their religion were damn near untouchable unless it was the cult of Jashin or part of an extremist sect, but even then, it was hard to do so without some form of civil upheaval following in its wake. Dearly wanting to strike the man, she suddenly felt an overbearing presence behind her. Umbu cat, release Father Seimon this instant. Hearing the voice of her Kage, Gazuru let the man go and turned to her leader. Get a grip and walk it off. You're no good to Naruto or myself in this state, is that understood? Wait outside and direct Tsugi and Kinzo to the cellar. Not wishing to argue with her Kage, whose word was law for her, nodded and walked out. Sorry, Father Seimon. As she left, she sat down on the front porch of the orphanage and waited for the medics to arrive. Hiruzen nodded towards Seimon. I'm sorry about that. No need to apologize, Lord Hokage. I must confess I was horrified by what I saw down there. I wouldn't wish what happened to the boy upon even my worst enemy. But he shows great strength of will and soul to have survived and clung on to life so long, hovering over the border of life and death at such a young age, the young priest said sagely as he smiled to the old Kage. Puffing out some smoke, Hiruzen nodded. Well said, Seimon-san. Would you accompany me to the cellar? Placing his hands in his sleeves, having straightened out his clothing. Oh, goodness no. I barely stopped myself fainting when I went down there before. I would rather tend to the children and make sure they don't get too over-curious about all the commotion. That's probably for the best. Turning around, he left the priest to walk off and make sure the children behaved. As he got to the bottom of the cellar stair, he stepped around the puddle of vomit on the ground and managed to block the stench of the room by blowing out some smoke and walking into it. Making sure not to block the doorway, he watched on with stony look that belied his anger at the scene of the boy before him. Washi's limited knowledge had allowed him to stop the bleeding and do basic first aid, but that was all the man was capable of doing. Perhaps he could persuade Tsunade to return if he allowed her to start a medical ninja program. I'm so sorry, Minato. I'm just glad that our lie to Kushina drove her from the village, otherwise we'd have a civil war on our hands. The loyalty people had and still have for the Uzumaki clan in this village is still staggering. He then heard footsteps on the stairway before Kinzo and Tsugi burst through, not fazed by the smell at all, gasped at what they saw. Before moving into action, before Kinzo issued some orders, while Tsugi began running a green glowing hand over Naruto. Daisetsu, prepare the stretcher. June, the oxygen mask, and 4. Tamami neck brace and bandages. We need to brace those broken joints so we can reset them at the hospital. Let's move, people. Washi at this point stood opposite the Hokage with his head lowered. If you don't mind, could I get some air, my lord? Go ahead and tell the others I want them ready to guard his stretcher from here to the hospital. Nobody touches him. Anyone even tries is to be pushed away. Washi nodded, and those persistent enough to fight back. Kill them all. Nodding again. It'll be my pleasure to pass on those orders, my lord. By the gods, was the man happy that he had shinobi like Washi under his command, completely docile and nice at one moment, and a hardened professional killer the next. Watching as the multiple breaks were tended to, he watched as the 5 medic carefully rolled the near-dead boy onto the stretcher, and began moving out of the room. Clicking the button on his throat, he made sure to change the channel to the TI department. Ibiki, this is Fire 1, over. Fire 1, this is Ibiki, read you loud and clear. The voice was graveled and harsh, as it rang in Hiruzen's ear. I need clean-up team for the cellar of White Orchid Orphanage. I also need someone to come interrogate the staff here besides Father Seimon. There's been a nasty attack leaving Fishcake near dead. Dispatch clean-up team 1 and sending Oda Kanai to do the interrogations, sir. Copy. Oh, and Ibiki have Oda report to me directly after he finishes this as a level 5 breach in security. Have him keep that in mind. Understood, Lord Hokage. He'll operate as if this is a level 6 threat. Good, I look forward to the reports later. Fire 1 out. As they were carting Naruto through the streets with no other alternative, as it would be too stressful otherwise to travel via the rooftops, Sugi and Kinzo were attempting to treat some of the minor internal injuries, stabilizing him even more, while the others all bustled about pushing and pulling the stretcher, and keeping the floor up and wiping bloody spit from his face and making sure that his airways were clear. Yugao, who was seeing Naruto for the first time, was visibly shaken along with Tenzo. Many of the civilians looked away from the horrid scene of the mutilated child being carted through the streets. One civilian finally recognized who it was. Hey, it's the little demon, serves him fucking right. He didn't get to say much more before Yugao's fist landed a heavy haymaker on the man's jaw, dropping him like a sack of potatoes. That boy has more courage than all of you combined. He's been clinging to life in this state for 2 days. I doubt you would last a minute before dying. She then jogged off after her team, intent on giving anyone who caught her ire a piece of her mind. So much so she drew her katana. Tenzo, seeing this, thought it was a good strategy. No one under the rank of Jonin would attempt to take on 4 Umbu and 5 medics if they had their blades out and naked for the world to see. Unsheathing his tanto, he held it at his side. Gazara copied her cousin and Washi drew his own tanto. It seemed to work. The civilians all backed well off, giving a wide berth, and wisely stayed quiet. The Umbu then noticed the presence of their Kage as he walked alongside the stretcher, making sure not to impede any of the medical staff. Yeah, you'd have to be right proper suicidal now to take on the Kage of the village with 4 Umbu backing him up along with those other loyal ninjas of his around the place. Rounding the corner and seeing the administration sector of the building, Hiruzen knew they would be going past the academy just as they children would be finishing their taijutsu practice. He just hoped that they wouldn't attract too much attention to themselves. It was the last thing Naruto and himself needed, little children spouting wild theories on how Naruto was injured. Getting past the gate, he saw little Ino Yamanaka by the fence before screaming fright at seeing Naruto-sensei. It's Naruto, he's in trouble. Sighing, he saw Irika, who he knew was starting to like the boy, come sprinting over, and before covering his mouth at the grotesque sight before him, my God, Lord Hokage. Pausing and letting the medical group move on ahead, stopped in front of Naruto's classmates as well as Irika, whom they had flocked around with the likes of Ino, Sakura and Hinata crying into his leg. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I'm sorry, Irika, I can't tell you any more than that. Even I'm hazy on the details. Sasuke, who had just lost his entire family a few months ago, clenched his fists together tightly. It was happening again. He wasn't friends with the Uzumaki, but he was a decent guy that understood his pain somewhat, never having had a family himself. Hiruzen leaving them, Irika turned to his class. Alright, everyone into class, come on. I'll contact your parents and have them come pick you all up. He then felt a tug on his trouser leg. Looking down, he saw Shikamaru looking up at him. Yes, Shikamaru-kun? Is Naruto going to be alright? Was all the Nara boy asked. I don't know, was all the Chunin instructor could say as he ushered the shocked children into the building. Watching from behind a glass screen, Hiruzen sighed as he watched Sugi and Kinzo with their aides push bones back into place and reset them before placing them in casts. Pulling a pocket watch out of his Kage robes, he noted he had been standing and watching the proceedings before him for about 2 hours now. The first hour had been sorting out the boy's ribs and punctured lung, not an easy task when each rib was broken and fractured in multiple places, not to mention the internal bleeding as well. Oh, how he wished he could get his hands on the bastards who had done this to the boy. It didn't help that his Umbu had reported that there was a various street parties celebrating the death of the demon. Looking around, he could see Washi was inside the operating room in the corner wearing scrubs and clean clothing. Tenzo was at the entrance to the room, while Gazaru and Yugao were at the other entrance to this private section of the hospital that was reserved for himself personally. As soon as he had heard of Naruto's condition, he had immediately asked if Enma could get in contact with the Toads and have them deliver a message to Jiraiya asking that he return immediately so he could check on the 8 trigram seal that housed the 9 tails. Hopefully the man returned soon, cause if Naruto didn't survive this ordeal, then he feared the village would be doomed. He was too old to fight off the 9 tails and reseal it within another host. And if he died, no one at the moment was suitable to take the position as Kage from him. Not yet. 2 days later, checking in on Naruto like he had done the last couple of days, Hiruzen walked into the recovery room that he had been moved to, one that he himself had only used 3 or 4 times, of which were during the later stages of the First War and again at the start of the Second War. It wasn't a place he liked to visit, that was for certain. Sitting in one of the chairs in the corner, he saw a pile of academy textbooks sat on one of the side tables. It seemed his Umbu was softer than he thought. He thought Tenzo was joking when he told him that some of his special forces took the time and to lecture the comatose Uzumaki child his academy lessons. Apparently, according to Tsugi, who had taken over primary care of him at this point, it was good for the child to hear people talking to him and taking a vested interest in his well-being. It may hasten his recovery out of the coma, which was only a good thing. Producing a book from his robes, he smiled at the title, The Tale of a Gutsy Ninja, not one of his students' best works but inspiring to the young ones. Flipping to the second chapter, having read him a chapter the day before, was about to settle in and begin reading when Tsugi walked into the room with a troubled look on her face before placing various charts and x-rays on the light-up board that was in the room. Tsugi herself had temporarily moved her office into the boy's room to keep him company. Had she not been blocked or barred by the village council with trying to adopt him, she would have an adopted son at this point. Standing in front of them, she hummed as she looked at the chakra network scan and then compared it to earlier ones of the likes. If his eyes didn't deceive him, Kushina and Mito Uzumaki, both previous Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails like Naruto. Fortunately, Kushina had managed to survive having the 9 tails being ripped from her 6 years ago, but he and his advisors had seen it fit to deceive her and tell her her son hadn't survived the sealing and that the 9 tails chakra had ripped the boy's body to pieces and that Jiraiya, Orochimaru and himself were forced to use a teleportation jutsu and send the creature somewhere else. In her distraught state, she resigned from the corp and fled the village in tears. Wait, why was Tsugi comparing the charts of the 3 Jinchuriki of the village? Tell me, my lord. What do you notice about the chakra networks of Lady Kushina and Mito, and then tell me what you see in little Naruto's chakra network chart. Standing and walking to stand next to the tall and buxom woman. Looking at the charts closely, while Kushina and Mito seemed to have 2 chakra centers, which was understandable, they also had extra pathways and chakra points as well, again understandable. Mito had said as soon as she had sealed the 9 tails within her body, her chakra changed, and she had to retrain everything all over again. The same with Kushina in that regard. He then panned his gaze over to look at Naruto's own chakra network chart. He wasn't the best at reading them, it was only done very rarely since it was hard to do for a medical ninja. Gazing carefully at the chart, he nearly dropped his pipe. Other than him having vast reserves of chakra, that was understandable. He was an Uzumaki known to be chakra monsters. No, what caught his attention, he had no second chakra center or extra chakra points. He then read a notation stating that the boy's chakra was potent, but that was understandable. He was the son of a Jinchuriki, he was bound to have some potent chakra being exposed to such a beast while in the fetus. Tsugi, you didn't mess the chart up, did you? By the gods, he hoped that was the case. All he got was a derisive snort from the woman. Not likely, my lord. At present I'm the most qualified to do them. That chart is accurate. Naruto isn't a Jinchuriki. If we go solely off this chart, I also went a step further. Seals, when exposed to chakra like Naruto-chan's 8 trigram seal reveals itself. I carefully exposed it to chakra by placing his hands in the ram sign and stimulating him to channel chakra, and no seal appeared on his body anywhere. Well, except on the back of his neck, but I'll get to that in a minute, she said before taking a sip of her water that was on her desk. What I'm trying to say is Naruto isn't a Jinchuriki, he's a normal child. No special trait about him except for his Uzumaki blood, obviously, she said as she sat on the edge of her desk. Hiruzen, who was a seal master, didn't need to make Naruto channel chakra to find seals. Running his hand over the boy's torso, finally allowed his pipe to fall to the ground. We have made a grave error, it seems, Tsugi. I must notify the village council. May I borrow these charts as proof? I'll also bring Danzo and Jiraiya along to confirm my claims later on if that is fine with you. Nodding, Tsugi shrugged. It's fine by me, my lord. Just so you know, I will be taking Naruto-chan home with me after he wakes up. Would you like to know about the seal on the back of his neck? Humming for a second, he relented. Yes, please, what is it? All the woman did was hand a picture of it to Hiruzen. Your student's handiwork, I believe, don't you? Holding the picture in his hands, he stared and the 6-piece tomo pattern that Tsugi had so helpfully labeled for him as a cursed seal. Damn him, damn him. He probably orchestrated this whole thing somehow. He growled as he began to leave. I'll stop by later with Danzo and Jiraiya. Tsugi nodded and went over to the window of the room and sat on the windowsill before pulling out a cigarette. Hope you don't mind, Naruto. As she said that, she lit the stick up and blew the smoke out the window, walking up a set of stairs on the side of the Hokage monument. Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't even need to identify himself to the 2 jonin that stood guard on each side of the large double doors that sat halfway between the chin of the first Hokage's face and the base of the mountain. Watching as the doors opened, revealing a semicircle table with 14 chairs lining it, while in front of them was a 2-tier dais, with 4 seats, 3 on chairs on the first tier, and his own over-gaudy throne sat on the second. How he disliked that throne made him feel like a tyrant at times, but then again, when his predecessors were ruling, the clan heads had been much more powerful, purely for the showing of power. Nothing more, nothing less. Carrying 3 manila folders with 18 copies of Mito, Kushina and Naruto Uzumaki's chakra pathways in each one, passed them to 3 aides that he had cleared to stand in on the meeting, those being Kakashi Hatake, one of his jonin and the last living student of the 4th Hokage who had died 6 years ago. That, and he was technically the clan head of the Hatake clan in the village, even if he forwent his traditional seat between the Akimichi and Aburame clans. Seiho Chino, an elite jonin who had been in said position for the past 35 years. Lastly was Kisho Takagaki, a former guardian shinobi of the Fire Daimyo, and a jonin of 20 years. Nodding to each man, Sarutobi took his seat behind his former teammates and best friend who acted as his advisors in most cases. He also noticed that Jiraiya had appeared just off to his left in one of 3 hidden chairs that allowed for the Sannin to partake in council meetings. And purely out of habit, before looking at his own council, he looked up to a private raised booth on the left wall that the daimyo would sit in when he came to the village for various reasons. Panning his gaze around the room, collecting his thoughts on the matters he would be discussing today, and the fact his student had somehow breached the village's security measures and had managed to get close enough to a level 5 guarded security target and beat him within an inch of his life with help. allowing his eyes to drift over the miniature room tall statues of the first, second, fourth Hokage statues as well as his own which was between the fourth and second's one. Resting his gaze on the council he noted that everyone who should be present was present. All 14 civilian representatives were present. Councilwoman Mabuki Haruno, she was the lead counselor which was a godsend considering she herself used to be a Chunin level ninja before she retired to the reserve forces. Councilman Benkei Sakurano, Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage. Councilman Katoe Sato, Minister of State-Owned Enterprises and Civilian Foreign Affairs. Councilwoman Aiko Nagao, Minister of Civilian Corrections, Tourism and Village to Land of Fire Relations. Councilman Ichibai Miyazato, Minister of Housing and Urban Development. Councilwoman Tamika Ameji, Minister of Civilian Education and State Services. Councilman Juro Katsuraji, Minister of Social Development. Councilman Nampo Hirose, Minister of Health. Councilman Tashiki Kawano, Minister of Trade and Export Growth. Councilman Hajime Endo, Minister of Civilian Judiciary Systems, Courts and Justice. Councilwoman Jaruri Yamane, Minister of Civilian Police and Revenue. Councilman Katai Hamakawa, Minister of Workplace Relations and Safety and Immigration. Councilman Kei Nisabi, Minister of Environmental Affairs. Councilwoman Ruri Yakono, Minister of Internal Affairs and Children. They basically made up the governing body of the civilian side of the village, but all were answerable to him, the Hokage, as it had been since the beginning of his sensei the second Hokage's reign. That and also lightened his paperwork duties considerably, which was a godsend if you asked him. They were on the left side of the table. On the right side of the table there was 14 more seats of power that held the shinobi governing body that was in charge of everything to do with the shinobi core of the village, and in terms of power compared to the civilian governing body, their power was much more extensive. Aburame clan lead by Shibi, Akimichi clan lead by Choza, Hataki clan. The seat was currently empty due to Kakashi being the last member, and not wanting to have a seat since the death of his father almost 15 years ago. Hyuga clan lead by Hayashi, who was currently the most powerful member in the Shinobi Council in terms of political power, being the head of the largest, and by extension of numbers the most powerful, due to the other noble clans either being small in number in the instance of the Aburame, or with only one living member left in the case of the Uchiha clan. Inuzuka clan lead by Tsum, she had recently taken over from her deceased father Ikki. Kahaku clan lead by Tomomi, he leads the only clan to live outside the village limits on the border with the hidden rain village in the land of rain. Karama clan lead by Murakumo, Nara clan lead by Shikaku. Sarutobi clan, the seat would be occupied by his eldest daughter Rise, but she was currently in her first weeks of maternity leave. Senju clan, the seat was empty with the only Senju living not being in the village. Shimura clan, was empty only because its leader Danzo was one of his advisors and was sitting in front of him. Uchiha clan, the seat was empty due to the clan's downfall a few short months ago, and the only members alive were either too young or on the run as a missing ninja. Uzumaki clan, the seat was empty due to Naruto being too young and his mother, well, he had seen to it that she was run out of the village. Lastly, the Yamanaka clan lead by Inochi, who had 5 seats between him and his close friend Shikaku which were currently unoccupied. Clearing his throat and deciding to get the proceeding out of the way, spoke with authority that had been bestowed upon him many years ago by his sensei during the Second Shinobi World War. Lord and ladies of the council, thank you all for coming at such short notice. He then motioned for Kakashi to step forwards and hand out the contents of his manila folder to everyone. At this moment Kakashi is handing out copies of Mito Uzumaki's chakra network and center, giving them all a minute to look over the charts they had been given. Lord Hayashi, you are the most acquainted with the body's chakra network and points. Could you tell me what is unique about this particular network? Looking at the man confusedly at the question, of course my lord, it's the network of a Jinchuriki. This is denoted by the visible second chakra center in the center of the body. Also by the fact there are extra pathways and chakra points all over the body. It's one of the reasons why Hyugas are warned not to engage Jinchuriki. Frowning at the chart once more, may I ask who conducted this chart? And what are you trying to reinforce here my lord? Blowing out a plume of smoke from his pipe, Hiruzen smiled. You may. That chart was done by the first Hokage himself for his wife after he was victorious against Madara Uchiha. In fact I was present when he was doing it with the aid of Tetsuzan Hyuga, an ancestor of yours I believe, Hayashi. He saw Hayashi nod at his answer. It was a good one. As for what I'm getting at, it will become clear in time my lords and ladies. He then motioned for Seiho to hand out his folder's contents. Now this chart is a former Jinchuriki and Kunoichi of the village Kushina Uzumaki. This chart was created about 4 years after the 9 Tails was sealed in her, and done by Tsunade Senju with the help of Tora Hyuga. He then looked at Shikaku. Mind telling us what you see in this chart, Lord Nara? Troublesome, they're near identical. Makes sense, both were Uzumaki and both were Jinchuriki hosts. Am I right, Lord Hayashi? The Nara patriarch asked, looking completely bored with everything. Scanning the document for a little longer, Hayashi nodded. More or less identical, but some of the extra pathways are in different locations. But that's to be expected, there are always variations between individual, even in clans. He thought he should add that last bit on in case it confused some of the civilian minister who could and would interpret that very wrongly. Nodding at what he had heard, Hiruzen motioned for Kisho to hand out his charts to the council. This last set of charts is of Naruto Uzumaki's chakra pathways, our current Jinchuriki. Also I would deem it prudent to add he is the son of Kushina Uzumaki and the legacy of the 4th Hokage as well. These charts were made a day ago after Naruto was admitted to hospital, done by my personal physician Tsugi and my personal umbuwashi who happens to be a Hyuga clan member. Waiting again for the collective council to look over the chart, he saw Danzo turn in his chair and look up at him with a very displeased look on his face. He also noted that looks of shock were passing over the faces of the various members of the council. Clearing his throat, Hiruzen spoke clearly and without emotion of any kind. "IA seal master, when I saw this, checked his body for his Jinchuriki seal, the 8 trigrams seal. I found nothing of the sort, nor did Tsugi, who stimulated and manipulated Naruto's chakra towards where the seals should have been positioned over his navel. Lords and ladies of the council. Naruto Uzumaki is not the 9 tails Jinchuriki, but a normal child of a noble clan that has been treated heinously for the past 6 years of his life. I have summoned Jiraiya to verify my discovery, and I would also Danzo to take a look at his body to find the seal." The council at that grew deathly silent. They had all heard rumors and scuttlebutt of what had been done to Naruto, and they all sure as hell knew about his hospitalization almost 4 days ago. Standing up, Hiruzen threw one of his arms to the side. "From this day forth, all those who have unjustly harmed one of our own will be hunted down like the dogs they are. Those of the extremist group Fox Hate shall be hung by the neck till death outside the front gate of the village. Any found to have aided and abetted these extremists shall be punished accordingly." Late at night on the 5th day of Naruto's hospitalization, Hiruzen was sat in his office with Jiraiya opposite him. "It seems Minato duped us all, doesn't it? By the looks of things, he took the 9 tails into the belly of the Reaper." Jiraiya nodded. "It does look that way, Saratobi-sensei. But what worries me is that curse mark on his neck. You were wise not to show Danzo. He may have tried to use it for his own gain. Maybe we should find Kushina and tell her what has happened here. Tell her way is screwed up and that you were thinking of the betterment of the village when you told her the lie. It's too late for that now, Jiraiya. Due to my plans and machinations, that boy has managed to wind up in hospital. I had hoped if I showed him some positive recognition and praise while the rest of the village scorned him, he would become zealously loyal to me and me alone. And now look where that has gotten us. A little boy in hospital and no Jinchuriki and Orochimaru waltzing in and out of my village freely." At that he threw his sake cup at the wall. Looking sadly and down at his own sake, Jiraiya downed his cup. "You're not the only one to fail. I promised the kid's parents that I would be his godfather should anything happen to them. And I failed that one miserably, didn't I?" Cleaning his pipe, Hiruzen sighed. "The only silver lining here is that the village is openly denouncing the acts of Fox Hate now, and the fact that we have the leader in custody already is a bonus. Damn fool thought he could buy of Gazaru and Yugao when they arrested him." Giving a rumbling laugh at the thought of Kazashi Haruno attempting to pay off the 2 purple-haired Kunoichi, and not to mention that his own wife was the one to dob him into the Hokage, as well as cough up a hefty reparation fee for what he had done to Naruto. That, and she offered to buy him a nice apartment in the nice part of the village when he woke up. Not a bad idea. He could have it empty till he moved out of Tsugi's place when he was older. Now there's an amusing image, sensei. Does Tsugi know when the kid will wake up? Not the slightest clue, although his brain is functioning fully according to the monitors she has set up. He then placed his pipe down on his desk. "When he does though, I'm going to take him on as an apprentice and teach him everything I know. You can help." Tossing away the cup he was holding and picking up his bottle, Jiraiya grinned lopsidedly. "Look at us, 2 old men trying to repent their sins by training the kid." 6 months later. Midnight, all was quiet in the hospital. Tsugi Ogami was sleeping at her temporary desk that was still in Naruto's med bay. Gazaru was now the only umbu spared to stand watch over his room. The only noise that could be heard was the odd pitter-patter of orderlies moving about during their night shifts. That, however, was about to change. If one were to look at Naruto's sleeping coma form at that very moment, a fog of black and green vile-feeling chakra had begun to leak out of the boy, who had been savagely beaten 6 months prior. "I feel so angry. Why? Oh, that's right, they tried to kill me. I want my mommy. Where is she? Mommy, where are you? I need you." As his thoughts began stirring, so did the monitors hooked up to the young redhead, the beeping quicker and much more violent as the dark fog of chakra began swirling about his body as he lay there. Tsugi, being woken by the beeping, couldn't help but look concerned. Standing and moving over to his prone form, she tried reaching out, only to be stung by the potent and vile chakra that surrounded the little one. Just as quickly as it had appeared, the chakra dispersed. "What on earth is going on? Gazaru, could you find me an orderly, please?" The only indication that her request was being seen to was the sound of a shadow clone popping into existence. Turning her attention back to Naruto, she began busying herself about the bed, checking his IVs and drips as well as the various pads that were stuck to his body, monitoring his heart, brain functionality and breathing as well as blood pressure and such. While she was doing that, an orderly popped her head through the door and started to help, having bought her small trolley of various things, like extra morphine, chakra pills, plasma pills, stitches, bandages, water, cloths and many other things. "What can I help you with, Lady Tsugi?" was the woman's kind question as to her summoning. Truth be told, she was absolutely giddy to help in the treatment and recovery of the 4th Hokage's son, let alone the next head to the illustrious Uzumaki clan, whom had brokered the peace treaty between the Senju and Uchiha clans so that the founding of the village was possible. I'm not sure what happened, but his heart rate and everything has increased. He could very well be waking up in a few minutes. Now I should warn you, he could act violently when he wakes up, or act like a scared, timid child and try to shy away from us. Whatever happens, it is not his fault but those that put him here, and there is also the possibility that Orochimaru's curse mark could hold some sway over him, was all she said as she continued to watch the monitors and the boy at the same time along with the orderly. What's your name, any young lady? Oh, Toki Utada. Well, it's nice to meet you, Toki. Was all the elder woman said. It was all she could get out before a small fist hit her in the side of the head, as she had bent over Naruto's body to attempt to hear his heart beat. Such strength! It was the only thought that ran through her mind before she blacked out for a second as she staggered over to the wall of the room to hold herself up and shake her head to get rid of the fuzziness that clouded her vision. Toki, acting straight away, tried to restrain the boy, but black tomo marks had appeared all over the right side of his face and body. He was already flying at the poor uncombat-trained orderly, and pushing her into a still disorientated Tsugi, making them both fall to the ground. With a whumph and thud, hearing the commotion from inside the room, Gazuru began opening the door out towards her, only to have a small, almost rocket-propelled weight impact against her stomach, making her fall backwards with the little thing that hit her. Out of reflex, and trying to catch whatever had hit her, she shouted out in pain as her arms were scratched and bitten by whatever had attacked her. Finally getting a good look at the thing on her, she saw a familiar mop of red hair and tried to hug him closer. Naruto, calm down. Please, calm down. She all but shouted, only to get a knee in the kidney for her trouble, making her loosen her hold on him. Damn, I forgot he learnt the basics to the academy taijutsu. Feeling him wiggle free and have a foot hit against her face, Gazuru scrambled to her feet and chased after the boy, hoping to have him cornered at the end of the hallway. I need backup. Not Naruto. Uzumaki is attempting to escape the hospital, and by the looks of it is being affected by the curse mark. She began shouting down her radio. Copy that. Squad jungle is inbound. ETA 5 minutes. Roger. As she neared Naruto, who was still running full tilt towards the window, her eyes widened. They were on the 5th floor of the hospital. Naruto, Uzumaki, don't you dare jump out that window. Crash. He jumped, was all she could say in exasperation. At that point, Tsugi and Toki came out of the room, with Tsugi having blood coming from her hairline and Toki having a lovely bruise on his cheek. Follow him, Gazuru. We'll be fine here. Nodding and jumping out after the boy, she went to her radio again as she saw Naruto darting down some side streets and buildings. Squad jungle. Copy. This is Ino of Squad jungle. Read you loud and clear. Fire 5. Fishcake has broken the perimeter and is headed west, with a 2-minute head start on me and 7 minutes on your team. Have your sensor locate the biggest chakra source after Lord Hokage. Over. Read you loud and clear. Fire 5 will be at the hospital in 2 minutes from there. We'll head west. Was all the jungle squad captain said as he clicked off his radio. Happy with what she had heard, Gazuru noted she hadn't been gaining on her target at all. Damn, that curse mark sure gives him a boost to overpower Tsugi and myself so easily and escape from the 5th floor of the hospital. Don't hurt yourself, Naruto, please. She then picked up the pace. Naruto, who was running along the alleyway, suddenly felt his chakra surge and jumped onto a rooftop with ease before continuing to run as fast as he could. The only thoughts running through his head was to escape somewhere. While she was running and finding herself chasing the boy across the rooftops of the village, still heading west, she had to admit if Lord Hokage got his hands on the boy and trained him up, he was going to be unstoppable, that was for damn sure. She then heard a crackle in her ear as her radio came to life. Fire 5, this is Control. Over. This is Fire 5, please advise. By order of the Hokage, I've dispatched squads War Dog and Glory to your general position, as well as Fire 2, 3, 4. Over. Roger that. Control, still in pursuit of Fishcake, have visual on target. Running along rooftops and west of the village. Roger, we'll update other squads. Control out. Running along, she watched him jump down onto the road again. Naruto, jumping onto the ground again, stumbled and fell on his front. Picking himself up and hiding, he waited for the right time to strike. Watching as the masked woman jumped down onto the street, he waited to have her back turned before launching himself out from behind the skip bin he was behind. Seeing her begin to turn as he dashed at her, he jumped into the air, and with a crazed and frightened look in his eye, he connected his elbow with the side of her head before kicking her in the kidney and pushing her into a wall. Grunting in satisfaction, Naruto jumped back onto the rooftops and made a beeline for the exit of the village. Hiruzen, who was sitting in his office with the Umbu commander, who was acting as command center for the teams to chase after Naruto, had, as soon as Gazuru radioed in, sent Umbu Squad Row, Ghost, Nightmare, Ranger to secure the gates, while Umbu Squad's Pirate, Shock and Phantom were to bolster the west wall, while Umbu Squad's Fire, War Dog, Jungle and Glory would be in pursuit. Don't worry, Lord Hokage, little fish cake has nowhere to run now. We'll have him recovered in no time at all. For your sake, Commander, I hope that is the case, was all Sarutobi said as he waited for another report in. Naruto, running, saw the gate before darting to hide in the shadow of a building when he saw more Umbu at the west gate, and again more on the walls. Moaning in fear and annoyance, I just want to leave and never come back. The 6-year-old bemoaned. Turning down a side street, Naruto continued to run north towards that gate. While he was running, however, he forgot that the north of the village was where all the training grounds were. Coming across the training grounds pretty quickly, Naruto decided that he would just hide out and wait to run away. Moving quickly along the forest floor, he ignored the odd sound of animals. The main thing was he had lost those that were pursuing him for now. Looking about now, thoroughly lost, he stumbled across a fenced-off area of forest. Deciding it was fenced off for a reason and that not many people would willingly enter, It would be the best place to hide out from his pursuers for now. Control, this is Squad Jungle, copy? Yes, Jungle, this is Control. We found Fire 5 and she's out cold. We need a medic on site. She has a head wound. Repeat, she has a head wound. Leaving Jungle 4 here to watch while the rest of us try. Pick up the trail. Any word from the gates and walls? Closing his eyes behind his mask, the commander opened them and looked at the Hokage. No word yet, Jungle. Continue pursuit. Clicking his radio off and looking at the Hokage, there's a possibility someone's helping him escape the village, an inside ally of Orochimaru perhaps. True, that could be the case, Commander. Double the wall guard. I highly doubt they've yet to find another exfil point in the village with the west being blockaded. Of course, Lord Hokage, I'll get right on it. Hiruzen stood and walked to the door before opening it, and speaking to his secretary Koko, be a dear and send a squad of Chunin out to round up 50 of my jonin. Nodding, Koko stood from her desk and went to one of the standby rooms for ninja who had pulled the short straw and were given a night guard rotation or first response position. With that sorted, Hiruzen went back to his desk while he heard the Umbu commander issuing orders down his radio and dispatching more teams to the walls. Naruto Uzumaki would not escape this village. He would make sure of it. It was early evening, 48 hours after Naruto's escape from the hospital. A village-wide search had been executed, one that included civilians and genin, and not just the upper echelons like it would normally be. Yet, with nearly the entire population of the village searching for Naruto, they were still yet to find him. 48 hours and not a word about him. Sugi was distraught over his escape and disappearance. Gazara felt thoroughly embarrassed, having been beaten and surprised by a 6-year-old academy student. If there was one silver lining, it would be Enko, a newly promoted Tokubetsu jonin at age 18, was one of the people searching hardest, knowing she could be of great help in monitoring the little boy with the same burden as her. It was quite heartening, to say the least, really. The civilians had taken to the streets en masse in an attempt to find the boy they had wronged. Hell, the academy instructors were using this opportunity to test the students on teamwork, and using their budding ninja skills to aid in the search effort. It was all very nice. Sitting across from him again was Jiraiya. This brought back some form of deja vu for the old Sarutobi elder. So, when are you going to call off the search, Sarutobi-sensei? Taking a puff on his pipe, Sarutobi hummed and thought, I'll give them another 24 hours to try and find him, then we'll have to call off the search. It's ironic, really. The night he goes missing is the night my grandson Konohamaru is born. Makes me wonder if he is actually alive right now wherever he is. Jiraiya looked down at that. There is a possibility he could be dead. The curse seal has a high death rate after all. Perhaps it would be best not to hold out too much hope for his emergence as an alive and well child. For all we know, the curse mark may have burned him out. He did take out 2 jonin-level ninja after all. As he finished, he rubbed his chin and took a sip of his sake as he thought about finding his godson's body washed up on some river bank or being carrion for birds and other scavengers. Pursing his lips at that, Sarutobi sighed. He had so much potential, and like with all our gifted ninja, we've somehow managed to lose another one due to my negligence. Chapter 2, Reemergence. Sitting on a stump worn from years of being sat on, a youth no older than 15 sat staring at the ground with sharp, narrow wolf-like eyes housing piercing violet fluorite orbs that hold a sense of wild brutality and bitterness about them. His face, narrow and haunting, fangs poking out over his bottom lip, cheek bones high, and a pair of long scars running down the left side of his face down onto his neck and chest. A parting gift from a tiger he slew. Stubble-covered chin. He watched as a mamushi slithered along the ground towards him. He knew it meant him no harm. After all, this was his forest, and he resided as king in it. Reaching out with a claw's hand, he tickled the underside of the mamushi's chin, having known this juvenile female since she was a hatchling. She was a meter long and still growing. Stopping his ministrations on her scaly chin, he allowed the snake to slither and coil its way up his arm before hissing menacingly in his ear as she began weaving in and out of his hair, which dragged along the ground as he sat on the ground. As the mamushi he had taken to naming finished hissing, he slowly turned his head towards where, now that he thought about it, sensed a lot of humans gathering. As he did so, he let off a large amount of bloodlust and killing intent, making the animals of the forest stir in fear at what had troubled their king so much. It was kind of fortunate that his skin was quite tough, so much so that Mamushi in her fright had accidentally tried to bite down on his shoulder, only for her venom dripping fangs to not pierce the skin. Not that it would matter, he had an immunity to the poison now. Standing from his spot, he looked around his clearing that he had at the base of a tree, his stump seat, bed of leaves and furs from his kills, carcasses of dead animals hanging from trees by vines, bones stabbed into the ground to signify his home. Smaller bones also hung in clumps in the tree branches and bushes that would rattle should they be disturbed. Allowing Mamushi to stay coiled about him, the youth rubbed the head of a bear who was curled up on the ground nearby, not once being fazed by the bloodlust and killing intent that had emanated from its master. Come Kingo, he then walked out the ring of bones and tilted his head back and howled loudly, echoing around the forest, having amplified his voice with his chakra, which he learned to channel all those years ago. It was time to hunt. As he thought that, he patted his bone knives before flexing his fingers and channeling chakra to his claw-like nails and making them grow long before shortening them. He did the same with his fangs. Standing outside the 44th training ground, Anko couldn't help but shiver a little as she felt as if the forest were watching her and the genin who were pissing themselves. She wouldn't admit it herself, but while she loved training in the forest, there were certain places that even she would dare step past, and they had become horribly notorious for shinobi to go missing in and never be seen again. She honestly couldn't help but wonder what the Hokage was thinking by allowing the second stage of the Chunin exams be held in here. The wildlife became a hell of a lot more agitated with trespassers, especially in the last 4 years. She doubted half the people here would make it to the center tower after 5 days. Well, she had allowed them to stew in their nervousness for long enough, she reckoned. Heck, the Uchiha brat was looking apprehensive about entering the forest, but then again, all leaf ninja present were looking incredibly apprehensive at this point. She couldn't wait to see what would happen to the other village's genin that entered with a false bravado. I got to hand it to Ibiki, bolstering up all your courage by passing you guys like that. But this exam, it's on a whole new level. They call this place the Forest of Death, and you're all about to find out why. As she said that, there was a whole load of people not wanting to find out, that was for sure. It also didn't help that she nearly froze halfway through when such an oppressive wave of bloodlust and killing intent washed out of the forest, accompanied by the sound of the forest inhabitants becoming agitated. Enko then mumbled under her breath, "Yeah, this is gonna be fun." Roaming through his forest for the last 2 days, Naruto had been told on the second day by one of O's siblings that had been at the fence line what was going. Giving a fanged smirk at the information he had learnt, Naruto had gone around looking for the little genin teams and taking them out one by one. It was very simple. He could smell the fear off of everyone. The smell was ripe and putrid. A symbolism of weakness. You didn't live long in the Forest of Death with any form of weakness. He had come across ninja from what he assumed were other villages due to their headbands not having the infamous leaf symbol of the hidden leaf village. Looking around, he heard a roar of anger, and judging by who it was, it sounded like Koki, one of the giant bears that came from the same sire as Kingo. Koki was somewhat of a bully, and probably had gone out in search for one of the human teams in order to assert his dominance. Narrowing his eyes, he charged off in the direction of the roaring as well as the shouts of alarm that had rung out immediately following the bear attack. Getting to the scene with ease, Naruto saw that Koki in his surprise attack had killed 2 of the genin. The big brute, scenting the air cause the third member had gone and hidden, froze when he caught her scent. Having grown up in the animal kingdom had allowed him to pick up on what various scents denoted, such as fear. But he could also tell if 2 animals were related or mated to one another. The same principle applied to humans. After all, it was O's mother who had taught him as a hatchling humans and beasts. There is no need to make a distinction. We are all creatures of this land, the only difference they are at the top of the food chain. Well, he was still learning the tongue of snakes at that point, so he was pretty sure that was the literal translation. He'd have to ask Hisako at a later date if that was the case. It seemed he had a pack member. What's the human term for pack? Oh yeah, that's right. It seemed he had a family member in the forest, distantly related of course, but it would be nice not being a lone wolf anymore. Sniffing her out, he whistled to Kingo, who was the same size as Koki, and roared. At that point Koki had paused at the sound of the roar, which echoed around the whole forest area around him. Although Koki had time to brace himself as he heard and saw his litter mate Kingo storm through some underbrush and lunge at him, forcing them both to stand on their hind legs and start biting and batting at each other with their large paws and wicked claws. While bellowing and roaring at each other, Naruto, who had watched the crazed berserker charge of Kingo, whooped encouragement to his big furry partner, which caused the red-headed girl he had snuck up on to jump and scream in fright at his appearance. Laughing at her reaction, Naruto crouched down in front of the girl. "You smell like me." As the girl started to turn bright red at Naruto's declaration, she felt a sudden impact on her head, making her black out and slump on the ground unconsciously. He then heard snuffling and snorting. Looking up, he saw his wolf buddy Thoki. Hearing what the wolf had said to him, Naruto glared at him and growled and grunted back at the large roan and gray wolf. He was not stupid or an idiot, it just made it easier to take her back to his den. He said as much to Thoki, who snorted and reached down and grabbed her by the collar. Standing up straight, Naruto was glad to notice that only the girl's toe dragged along the ground. He watched as Thoki and the girl disappeared. It was then he noticed that everything had gone quite quiet behind him. Looking out from behind the tree the girl had hid behind, saw that Kingo had managed to drive Koki off, and with only one scratch on his shoulder. It was better than the last time, which had given his big black furry friend a lovely scar on his face. Deciding to leave the big fella to recover and then return to the den with Thoki, who said he would look after the girl who smelt like him. Jumping into the treetops with Onryo at his side, Naruto got to the top of one of the trees and decided to hunker down for the night, seeing as though it was early evening and it was smarter to rest up high. Kneeling and rifling through the pockets of a corpse that belonged to a ninja from a village that had 4 lines in a row, was Naruto looking for a scroll thing that everyone was trying to get. The ninja died in their sleep, which took the thrill of the hunting them away. But it was early in the morning and he was a little stiff and sleepy. Had been on edge all night and for most of the morning. Finding another heaven scroll, well, he hoped it was the heaven one. He knew how to read and stuff, it was just that he hadn't had to read in, how long was it? Years now. He guessed he lost track of time living in the forest. All he knew was that he arrived in the forest when he was 6, and before that he was born on the day of the 9 Tails attack, or whatever that was. Adding the scroll into his vine and fur knapsack that was on his back, along with the bear fur cloak that only covered his right shoulder and arm, while his trousers were then tattered trousers that he had pilfered off of some ninja that had tried picking a fight with him 2 years prior. They used to be blue, he thinks, but they were so ripped, ragged and faded that he could hardly tell anymore. Standing and wiping the blood off of his bone knives, Naruto heard the sounds of fighting not too far off from where he was, as well as his keen hearing picking up faint voices that were talking. It also sounded like someone was crying almost. Jumping off in the direction of the voices, Naruto made it pretty quickly. Man, these ninjas weren't good at sensing each other. There was easy prey not 1,000 meters to their left, and they decided to fight each other ridicules. Wait a second, he recognized those people. Well, they looked bigger than when he last saw them. What were their names again? Spiky pineapple-haired kid messing around with shadows and looking shaken Shikamaru? Possibly it was so long ago that he might be right. That fat kid was Choji. He remembered that much. You only receive an Akimichi beatdown once, and remember not to call them that. The pink-haired girl with the massive forehead was Sakura. I mean, give it a shine, and it would be a mirror. It was perfect. Annoying screeching blonde was Ino, he thinks. Lying under a tree was a pair of guys one he didn't recognize at all. He was pale and dark-haired. The other brought a fanged smirk to his lips, his old academy rival Sasuke. Uchiha. Oh, there was one more guy, some weirdo wearing green and with a turtle shell on his head. He was out cold, having fought against one of the musical ninja, all of whom seemed to fine. Sneaking around he got so he was above the female of the musical note ninja, and dropped down stealthily, hitting her on the back of the head with the hilt of his bone knife, causing everyone to gasp at his appearance, while the two musical note ninja growled in annoyance. Looking up from his victim, he sent a violet-eyed glare at the two sound ninja before activating his nukiashi, or better yet his trackless step. He then appeared in front of Zaku and drove both his bone knives into his shoulders, disabling them before turning and kicking Dosu in the chest with such power that the bandage-wearing ninja was sent skidding across the ground. Ignoring Zaku's cries of pain behind him, Naruto allowed his scarred visage to glare intently at Dosu while allowing small traces of chakra to leak out, making it look like wisps of smoke coming from his body. He then added chakra to his fangs, making them grow in length. Take your team and leave. Unless you want to fight, in that case make it interesting for me. I'm in need of some entertainment, was all he said before picking the crying Zaku up and tossing him over at Dosu with ease. Dosu, who was getting up, looked at Naruto with fear. This changes everything. His chakra is too big, too powerful, we can't fight that. Getting to his feet, he looked at Zaku. Such speed, you took us down in no time. Now quivering in fear, Dosu began to back away as Naruto slowly advanced on him. Seeing no other alternative other than to retreat, Dosu dropped the scroll and picked up Kin and Zaku before running away. Naruto, who was glaring in the direction of their retreat, looked back at the leaf genin momentarily before taking off into the woods again. Center tower of the Forest of Death was a hive of activity. Anko had just been bought in by some Umbu, having found her in a bad way after she had confronted Orochimaru by herself. She was currently sitting in a chair on the topmost floor in a room with the Hokage and Ibiki off to one side along with Umbu squad Phantom, whom had found her. So, tell me, Anko, what exactly did Orochimaru say to you? Gripping the mark on her shoulder at her Hokage's question, Anko sighed as a mild pulse of pain reverberated through her body. He told me to make sure the Chunin exams weren't cancelled, because he wanted to see the Uchiha's potential now that he's been bestowed the curse mark. That is if he survives the night. Was that all he said? Was there anything else, anything you can think of? Asked the Hokage as he puffed on his pipe. Looking towards the ground, Anko nodded. Yeah, there was. He said it was intriguing. He could feel a third curse mark in the area. A curse mark that he hasn't thought about in 9 years. She then looked up at the Hokage, noticing the look of dawning on his face. There's only one other curse mark that I know of that was bestowed upon someone in the village. And he went missing 9 years ago. Naruto. Was all Hiruzen breathed out. He then looked at the Phantom Umbu squad members and was about to issue an order to them when someone knocked on the door. Looking up, he sighed. Please come in. As the door opened, he was surprised to see Shikamaru and Nara standing in the doorway. Smiling gently at the boy, he placed his pipe down. Ah, Shikamaru. What can I do for you? My Lord Hokage, Squad 7 and my own Squad 10. We met Naruto in the forest. He saved us from some sound ninja, the lazy genin said while slouched and with his hands in his pockets. Sitting up straighter at the declaration of the genin, the Hokage nodded. Weasel, fetch me an Inuzuka. Snake, bat, rat. Prepare for a recovery mission. Anko, you'll accompany them. Shikamaru, can you lead my ninja back to where you saw Naruto? The authority in the old man's voice was immense that all the ninja nodded, and Weasel instantly disappeared to go about his mission. Nodding, Shikamaru sighed, as troublesome as it would be, I'm probably the only one in my squad who could do it. And Squad 7 hasn't come back yet. Last I saw, Sai and Sasuke were out cold. This is gonna be such a drag. Chuckling at the lazy genin's commentary on the manner, he saw Anko pat the Nara on the back. Don't be a stick in the mud, brat. How hard can it be to bring one brat in for questioning and make sure he rejoins the village properly? Scratching his head, Shikamaru groaned. He defeated a high-level genin team in under 30 seconds. It was insane. If you blinked, you would have missed it happen. The Hokage thought he would chip in his 2 cents worth. He also escaped the hospital while under Umbu guard, knocking out a Jonin-level medical shinobi and doing the same with the Umbu who was in pursuit when he was 6 years old. Sweat dropping at that and laughing nervously at both comments, Anko kept smiling. But we're taking a whole squad of Umbu, 1 genin, and either a Chunin or Jonin Inuzuka and myself a special Jonin. That's 8 versus 1 including the Niken. Breathing out a cloud of smoke, Hiruzen looked at his Umbu who were gearing up in the corner and going through their supplies. He's Uzumaki, and the son of the 4th Hokage. You all know this. His potential is limitless and there's a chance he has axe to grind against the village's treatment of him all those years ago. Groaning at what a troublesome mission this was going to be, Shikamaru raised his hand. Hey, the second exam's going to finish tomorrow in the evening. What if I'm not back from this mission, Lord Hokage? Don't, Shikamaru. If we end up having to do a preliminary round for the third exam, I'll make sure you fight if you haven't returned by then. Otherwise you'll automatically pass the preliminary round and advance to the third round. Was all the Hokage said. Just as he finished speaking, a cloud of smoke appeared in the room, denoting the return of Umbu Weasel and the Inuzuka. When the smoke filtered out of the window that was open in the office that was in the center tower of the Forest of Death on the top floor, it revealed the Umbu was heading towards his squad mates to sort himself out, while the Inuzuka who was chosen was Hana Inuzuka, a Chunin level ninja. Lord Hokage, you summoned me for a mission? Indeed I did, Hana. We need you knows to help track down Naruto Uzumaki, who's somewhere in the Forest of Death. Shikamaru here is going to lead you to where he was last physically seen, and I hope you and your dogs will be able to pick up his scent. The trial is a couple of hours old, and it is fine whether the scent should still be there. Was all he said before looking at everyone in the room. Because of who this person is. This mission is A rank. Naruto is a high-profile citizen of the Leaf Village. He is the son of our beloved fourth Hokage. He is the future clan head of one of our great clans, and there is the matter of his Uzumaki Kekkai Genkai. I don't need to tell you all how important this mission is. There is a chance you'll all have to fight, but I need you to bring him back by whatever means necessary. Now go! As he said that, the 7 shinobi and 3 ninja hounds jumped out the open window. Naruto, having spread his scent all over in random places, knowing full well that one of his old academy classmates would report his presence to the old man Hokage, arrived back at his den where he saw the red-headed girl sat on his bed of furs looking wearily at Thoki every now and then, who was laid on the ground nearby napping. Landing on the ground in front of her, she screamed out in surprise before shouting, "Don't scare me like that, and why did you kidnap me?" Rubbing one of his ears after her outburst, Naruto gazed at her before reaching out and touching her red hair before comparing it to his own long red tresses. Same hair. What's your name? Being taken aback by the question and how similar the shades of red their hair was now that she saw him in proper light and not the gloom of the shade, shook her head as she gazed at him, violet eyes not too far off from her own red and purple tinted orbs, the same red hair. She then activated her sensing ninjutsu and couldn't help but look in wonder at how vast and wild his chakra was, but at the same time it was so bright and warm, making her feel happy and safe. It felt like family. Opening her mouth, she answered his question, Karen Uzumaki. It felt so strange saying her last name after so long, having just gone with simply her first name. Her mother before her death had warned her about revealing her Uzumaki heritage to strangers because there were still rumors that the Hidden Rock Village hunted down the survivors of the legendary clan still to this day. Eyes widening at her last name, Naruto, who by no means was a genius, but he had observed the people of the village from afar, so he knew what many of the customs were like for people. And out of pure impulse he lunged forwards and hugged Karen close. I'm not the only one. For so long I thought I had no one, but I have family. My name's Naruto Uzumaki. Returning the hug for a moment, Naruto then pulled away and sat cross-legged in front of her. It's a shame you're from another village. Giggling at that, Karen shook her head. The second exam finishes tomorrow. My sensei's a callous man. If we haven't finished by now, he probably thinks I'm dead and has returned home. Besides, Kusugakure only sent my team to show that they had a small presence on the world stage. Narrowing his eyes, he noted the bite marks on her arm as her sleeve bunched up. You're not telling me something, was all he said as he looked at her. Squirming a little under the older boy's gaze, Karen relented. The hidden grass treated me and my mother when she was alive as outsiders, although it didn't stop them from monopolizing on my mother's special ability to instantly heal those who feed off her chakra. They made her overuse ability, and she was sucked dry of chakra, which killed her. They now do the same with me. They just see me as a tool, someone expendable. They'll be more upset at the loss of my ability than losing me. Frowning at her answer, Naruto sat next to her and held her in a hug with her head rested against his chest. What will you do now? Now you don't have to go back to the hidden grass. You could stay here with me, or in the hidden leaf village. They'd welcome you with open arms. Shrugging, Karen pursed her lips. Before my mother died we were basically glorified prisoners in the hidden grass, but she was able to receive and send letters. And she was in contact with a coven of Uzumaki clan members somewhere hidden in the elemental nations. Actually, I remember Mum telling me that there were many small Uzumaki covens all over the elemental nations. After our clan's downfall, which sparked the Second Shinobi World War, the survivors spread out across the nations and went into hiding. Other than that, I'm not too sure, but if they're out there I'll find them. Hey, you could come with me, Naruto, we could find them together. Going wide-eyed at the proposition, Naruto hesitated. I haven't left the forest since I came here when I was 6. I don't know how many years have passed actually. I've lost all concept of time in the forest. Well, when were you born? You know that much at least, right? Karen asked as she stared at her currently closest family member. Yeah, I could never forget the day I was born. It was the day of the Nine Tails attack, the day both my parents died, the day I was branded a demon, the day I was given the fate of being tormented by the village for the rest of my life. But guess what? I became the demon of the forest. I became their worst fear. The sole reason why everyone is afraid of this forest. They created what I am today. He then paused and looked at his cousin, who was looking at him intently. You're the first person I've had a proper conversation with since I've come here. All the others came looking to kill the demon of the forest, not knowing it was me lying in wait, wanting to take revenge for what they put me through. I don't know if it's a good idea for me to leave. I'm a dangerous man after all. Well, the Nine Tails attack was 15 years ago. She then paused and looked at Naruto's face before beginning to trace his scar with her small hand. I don't think you're dangerous. You haven't hurt me yet. I don't see a demon either. I see my cousin, my family. And if there's one thing my mother taught me, it's family always sticks together, she said as she traced the scar down the side of his face. Did one of the people who came to kill you give you this? No, it was before my body mutated. I hesitated for a split second, and the tiger I was hunting got a lucky shot. It's a reminder, never hesitate in the face of an enemy, was his answer as he shifted the fur cloak on his right shoulder to allow her to see that it ended just above his right. What do you mean when your body mutated? She asked curiously. Smiling, he pointed to the tree they were next to. There's a hollow in the tree, and there's a chest. It has scrolls in it. One of my friends, a rat actually named Bakin, bought scroll written by the first Hokage himself, the ever-changing ebb and flow of chakra. At first dismissed it, but when I weighs it must have 7 or 8. I was incapacitated for months. Fortunately I had friends, Thoki, Kingo, Bakin, Tsuru, mother, they cared for. When my fever broke, my skin was as hard as the hide of the rhinos in this forest, not easily pierced. My nails had become claws, my teeth fangs. It became easier to speak to the animals. It also gave me enhanced agility, speed, senses and strength. I then decided to read Hashirama's scroll on chakra. He hypothesizes that like nature and time itself, it is ever-changing, like when a child transforms over time to an adult. He believed that chakra was much the same, that like time it was always changing, but because it is a mixture of two natural energies created by the body and nature itself, it has the potential to adapt and survive in situation. He believes that Kekkai Genkai came to be through the mutation of one's chakra changing the body. My chakra did much, but at an accelerated rate. So much so that it has changed my genetic marker to some degree and given me what I like to call the Shurhai Kekkai Genkai, domination bloodline, cause not only did my body change, but it gave me an oppressive aura that exudes power. This power allows me to exert my dominance over all wildlife. Thoki sleeping over there refers to me as Alpha. That's how I ended up like this. You can take and read the scroll if you want. I've read it 4 or 5 times. Nodding, Karen ended up looking at his claws and examining his skin closer as he spoke. My goodness, that is incredible. You would be a medical ninja's dream to look at. There hasn't been an appearance of a new Kekkai Genkai in years, not since the end of the Warring States era. I know. Would you like to get back to the village now? He asked all of a sudden as he sensed a large body of chakra moving towards his general location. Frowning a little, Karen nodded. Sure, actually I might stick around the village for a while, so we can get to know each other, and so I can coax you into coming and finding an Uzumaki coven with me. Hee. I'd like that. Oh, we'll keep you safe. She's the right hand of the Animal King. With her around you will not be harmed in this forest. He then points to the left as he stood and walked with Karen. Travel that way. The edge of the forest is about 5 kilometers away. I can't wait to see you again. As he said that, slithered and coiled herself loosely around Karen's neck and right arm. Not being frightened of who she had watched slither out from her cousin's hair and around her, gave Naruto a quick hug. I'll come by tomorrow and visit. I'm sure will show me the way. Nodding, he watched as Karen jumped off into the trees. Running along a long tree branch, Naruto watched as 2 kunai and shuriken came from his right, hitting him in the neck, making him fall on his back. As he fell, Umbu's squad Phantom, Enko, Hana, Shikamaru and the Himura triplets landed on the branch just as the body burst into smoke, revealing a log. Should he use the substitution? Enko exclaimed. As she looked around, Shikamaru then boldly pointed out, probably a good thing you aimed for his neck and head. Didn't Lord Hokage want Naruto alive? Grumbling about smart-ass brats as she tried to find Naruto. Hana, who didn't know Naruto well other than he used to be an acquaintance to her little brother Kiba when they were in the academy, and the fact he was the 4th Hokage's son, which the Hokage had informed the whole village on so as to motivate them to find the kid 9 years ago. Question: how does he know any jutsu? He only went to the academy for 10 months? Shikamaru, who was still unnerved by the Umbu who were staying completely silent, shrugged. They teach us all the basics and bare minimum jutsu-wise in the first 10 months. Irika-sensei was really thorough and strict. I wouldn't be surprised if that troublesome red-haired tomato extrapolated and experimented. At that point, Kage, one of Hana's ninja hounds, whipped his head around and looked up at a branch opposite them as Naruto stepped out from behind the trunk. Well, Shikamaru, long time no see. He chuckled a little as the 3 dogs growled lowly in his general direction. Hey Naruto, nice to see you. Remember me? You remember the others as well? It was a simple question. Meanwhile, Hana was gawping at what she was looking at. This 15-year-old kid was the same height as her easily, his bright red hair fluttering about him, which was rather dramatic considering it fell to his ankles. His purple eyes seemed to shine in the gloom of the forest, and the large scar was helping with the intimidation factor to no end. Her senses being closely linked to her ninja hounds could feel their apprehension at even going against Naruto in combat. His aura was oppressive and otherworldly. Her senses were conflicted. They were telling her to attack and subdue as per her leader's orders, but they were also telling her to bow and obey. This This king before her, she was so conflicted. Yeah, I remember them, although if what I saw in the forest was all the power you guys accumulated in the last 9 years, sadly I'm unimpressed. What I saw was pathetic. Now tell me, Anbu, does the Hokage wish for me to return to the village proper? Naruto said as he fingered the hilts of his bone knives. It was then that the leader of Anbu's squad, Phantom, spoke up. He does. He also advised us to use whatever means necessary to bring you back. I thought as much, but would the shinobi body want a demon living in their midst? After all, that is what I am, isn't it? A demon, a monster, an abomination. I remember what they called me before I disappeared: the demon, the hidden leaf, the monster of the hidden leaf, the abomination of the hidden leaf, and the first coming of the demon. I remember them all. I have one more to add to that list. The murderer of the hidden leaf. He said all of that with a sneer on his face as he spoke, his voice dripping with loathing and hate. Tell me how many shinobi have gone missing in this forest since my legend, the legend of the demon of the forest of death, come into existence? Too many, if you asked me. I am a creation of the village's abuse and hate. I became the demon that they feared. You can thank them for what is about to happen to you. Before he could attack, Shikamaru spoke up. Naruto, come with us peacefully, please. You only killed in self-defense. No one will condemn you for that. No one will. Please come with us peacefully. Get it through your head, Shikamaru. I'm not coming. This is my domain, where I reign supreme as king of the forest. You're on my turf now, he said, spreading his arms before crossing them back over his chest. Enko at this point grinned. King, is it? Naruto at that narrowed his purple fluorite eyes. Indeed. Alright then, how about a wager then, your highness? Surely you could humor us with your graciousness, she said. At this point a grin was threatening to break out on her face. Smirking at Enko maliciously, Naruto nodded. Now this is interesting, very interesting. What is this wager? Everyone in Enko's team looked at her like she had gone mad before gawping at Naruto, who was so openly offering to listen to her bet. We'll fight, you versus all of us. We win, you come back to the village and agree to become a ninja. But if we lose, well, make your demands. Looking down upon them, Naruto was feeling confident right now. He had fought over 50 shinobi battles in the last 4 years and hadn't lost one of them. This would just be another tally to add to his record. You and the other woman have to stay in the forest here with me. Done. What, Enko? No, I did not sign up for this at all, no way. Before she could rant any further, Shikamaru, who had been standing behind her, tapped her on the shoulder, whispered in her ear. After a second, Hana sighed. Fine, alright, I agree to the terms. Kurenai, Asuma, Guy, Kakashi, better hurry up and get here. Excellent, I haven't been beaten in combat yet. As a king, I'll allow you the first attack, he said as he crossed his arms. Hana, wanting to smack Naruto around for what he wanted if he won the fight, thought she would draw some blood. No way was she going to be some self-proclaimed king's concubine lover. Erasure, Kage, Blitz, sick him, as she said that she charged Naruto with her triplets. Naruto smirked at her straightforward attack. Foolish, now bow, as he said that he exerted his Shirhai Kekei Genkai, which halted Erasure, Kage, and Blitz in their tracks, making them lower themselves onto the ground. Hana, seeing this, was shocked and growled out at Naruto, who stood there impassively gazing at her. Now Erasure, Kage, Blitz, come to me. Shocking her even further, her triplets, whom she had bonded with since she was 6, got up and dutifully padded up to Naruto and stood either side of him. Growling, Hana shouted at him while her teammates stood shocked at what was happening. What did you do to my kids? Yes, she called them kids. She had always done so since she had gotten them. It's always a sad day when a child leaves his mother's side. But you can thank my Kekei Genkai for this. Your beloved children are mine to control for now. Right, let's even the numbers up a little. Erasure, Kage, Blitz, savage the Umbu, go. As he said that, he pointed at the Umbu. He always knew they would be the largest threat in the group. Watching the 3 hounds take off and engage the Umbu broke Hana's heart. Weasel, who managed to get a slight reprieve, shouted to his teammates, fight to incapacitate them, don't kill. Hana, hearing that while thoroughly upset at what her babies were doing, knew they wouldn't be too badly hurt. Turning her attention back to Naruto, who was still standing there, glanced at her, and she was sure she saw a look of sadness flash across his eyes before he savagely crushed all trace of it as he sidestepped a pair of kunai Enko had thrown. Skipping out the way, he made direct eye contact with Enko. Enko, who was watching Naruto, was surprised when he appeared in front of her and kneed her in the gut, throwing her backwards, making spit fly from her mouth. What the hell, how is he that fast? Shikamaru, while he was watching Enko get kneed, sent his shadow possession jutsu at Naruto and caught him for a short second before he felt Naruto flare his chakra and break it, giving him enough time to dodge out the way of Hana's own Fang over Fang, which drilled a hole in the tree branch. Looking at the hounds, he saw they had made the Umbu retreat a little bit from them, leaving him to fight Enko, Hana, and Shikamaru. While he was dodging Hana's attack, he had dropped to the ground and found himself facing off against the 3. You can take a hit, that's good. It'll take a lot more to get rid of me, pretty boy. Enko shot back. You said Kekei Genkai before, Naruto. I don't remember learning about a Kekei Genkai that controls animals excluding the Abirame, Kamizuru, Amajiri, and Inuzuka clans, and 3 of those specialize in insects while the other is exclusively dogs. What's it called? Smiling a little, my body mutated while living in this forest. You can thank my chakra and my environment. I call it the Shirhai Kekei Genkai. It allows me to exert my will and dominance over any animal and bend them to my will. I haven't tried it with a summoning creature yet, but I'm interested to see what happens," was all he said as he pulled out one of his 9 bone knives and threw it at Shikamaru, making him leap to the side. "Enough, let's fight." And before they could even register it, Naruto had appeared in front of them, giving them enough time to put up a weak defense, but they were still thrown back and left stinging from the vicious and solid punches that he had landed on their bodies. "He's so fast, how can we keep up with that?" Hana moaned. Shikamaru got to one knee. "We hold out." "Yeah, but we can't let him attack first. He's just proved he could kill us without trying. From now on we're all on offense. Let's go." Shikamaru, try catch him in your shadow possession again. It slowed him down. "Hana, you're with me," Anko said as she charged at Naruto with Hana. "This is truly admirable, but it's too late for them, they are already victim of my technique." As he thought that, he dodged and weaved before delivering a stinging punch to Hana's forearm while ducking a punch from Anko before grabbing Hana by the hair and using his naturally enhanced strength and what he had accumulated from years of being in the forest tossed Hana away while kneeing Anko in the gut, only to find himself trapped again. Shadow possession success got you now, Naruto. As Naruto was about to flare his chakra, the Anko he need went up in smoke while the real one appeared behind him and slugged him in the face at the same time he broke the shadow possession, making him roll across the ground. Standing up, Naruto was grinning like a madman. "Now this is a fight. I'm so sick of not being hit. Now I'm interested more than ever before. Show me more, show me much more." As he said that, he calmed his breathing and settled his footwork before appearing in front of Anko again, and slugging her in the face, and sending her rolling along the ground, and then had to dodge Hana, whose hair had been removed from her ponytail, making her look wilder than ever. Smirking, he spun around her kick and axe kick combo before sweeping her feet from under her, and grabbing her flak jacket, and throwing her towards Shikamaru, who had to break his jutsu to catch Hana, making them fall back only to be caught by a brawny figure who appeared with 3 others. "Need hand, Shikamaru H&M. Shikamaru looking upside Asuma-sensei. "Man, am I glad to see you and the others." Getting off the ground, Anko stalked over to the other Jonin. "Okay, this makes it easier." It was then Guy beamed and smiled at Naruto. "For one to show so much youth and come out on top against 3 skilled shinobi is amazing, young man. Your flames of youth surely burn bright indeed." Naruto, who was now standing opposite the 4 new threats with his 3 original targets, whistled lowly. "Looks like I'm going to need some allies of my own." As he finished saying that, Erasure, Kage and Blitz appeared at his side, panting and looking a little frazzled. This surprised the newly arrived shinobi, and Kurenai looked at Hana. "Aren't they?" "Don't ask, I'm not in the mood," was the curt reply from the upset Inuzuka. As they appeared, the 4 Umbu also appeared with them, looking a little worse for wear. Smirking, he saw the Jonin regard him wearily before tilting his head back and howling like a wolf, which was soon repeated by a second lone wolf. He then, as soon as he finished, gave a loud roar that sounded like a bear, which was also repeated. "So, who are these people who would interrupt the fight between us?" "Well then, Shikamaru, are you going to tell me?" Panting himself, he nodded. "I don't see the problem with it. I called for backup while you were making your kingly wager with Anko-sensei. This is Asuma, my sensei. The gray-haired one is Kakashi, the sensei of Sakura and Sasuke. The green-clad guy is the sensei of Squad 9, Mato guy. The woman is Kurenai, Kiba, Hinata and Shino's sensei, all of them elite Jonin." Kakashi at this point could see the uncanny resemblance of his sensei, the 4th Hokage, in Naruto, despite him taking after his mother more in appearance. "Come on, Naruto. Come peacefully and we won't have to hurt you. The people want to see the son of the 4th Hokage return home." Smirking, Naruto crouched suddenly just as a large roan and black wolf twice the size of the Himura triplets landed in front of Naruto and barked with hackles raised and growling while spit and foam leaked out of his mouth. A bear then appeared behind Naruto and rested his snout on the shoulder of the again standing Naruto, who reached up and rubbed his muzzle. "Now do you see the power of my Kekkei Genkai? Kage, Erasure, attack Hana, Thoki attack Kurenai, Blitz go for Guy, Kingo the Umbu, and feel free to call the other bears, same with you Thoki." Before they could attack, Kakashi spoke again. "A new wager. You still get what you wanted before. We still get what we wanted, but only us 2 fight, everyone else watches. How's that? And to sweeten the deal, I'm the strongest in my group and one of the strongest in the village after the Hokage. Alright, you guys stand down and watch. Actually, Erasure Kage, Blitz, I release you from my service," returned to Hana. As he said that, the dogs ran back to Hana and started pining over her and whining. "I am truly sorry for doing that, but I needed allies and I didn't want to reveal Thoki or Kingo right away." He then looked at Kakashi. "Kakashi, you're interesting. I accept your wager. You and I come back to the village. I win Anko and Hana become mine by right of conquest. For I am the king of this forest." "Accepted." Thoki at that point along with Kingo moved to just behind Naruto, while the other ninja in the area jumped onto the nearest tree branch to watch from a vantage point that if push came to shove they would intervene and surprise Naruto and take him back by force. Naruto, seeing Kakashi, grinned ferally as he lengthened his claws, surprising a few people. "Alright Kakashi, let's do this." Naruto then stood there for a second while looking at his opponent before attacking. Kakashi, not having lost eye contact once, was shocked when Naruto appeared in front of him attempting to stab him with his bone knife. Acting quickly, Kakashi substituted with a log and appeared 20 meters away from Naruto, who had turned and was looking at him again. "I don't understand. I never lost eye contact with him. Did I zone out thinking this would be easy? Impossible, he's Sensei's son." "Either way, that is bad. I have to make sure not lose SI, as he thought that while staring at Naruto the whole time, making sure not to blink. He found himself not having enough to substitute but having to block with his own kunai, and only thanks to years of experience did he manage to jump back with only his sleeve being slightly teared. I can't see it, I can't read his moves, what's going on here? As he thought it, he was finding himself on the defensive again, having to dodge a slash from the bone knife coming his way. This is a dangerous technique, whatever this is. I can see why Anko and the others were having such a hard time. Up in the trees, Guy began grinning like a madman. Yash, he is truly youthful. Are you going to tell us, Guy, because this is painful to watch. Naruto's moving normally, but it's like Kakashi is constantly distracted and can't see him, like he's being taken by surprise, asked Asuma as he breathed out some smoke. Smirking as he watched Kakashi struggle against Naruto in taijutsu. That's it exactly. Kakashi can't see Naruto moving. I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing. This puts a pure taijutsu user on an even playing field with ninjutsu and genjutsu capable shinobi, more so than before. That's all well and good, Guy. But what is he doing to take Kakashi by surprise, and should we tell him what's happening, so he can counter? Anko asked, purely so she could know for future reference if she had the unlucky chance of ever having to fight Naruto again in taijutsu. Watching Naruto intently as he attacked Kakashi, he nodded. If anything, I would call this technique the Nikiashi, a trackless step. It's nothing fancy, once you know what to look for. It's a series of stealthy steps and breathing techniques. Looking at the elder shinobi, Shikamaru frowned. Could you explain that with more detail, Guy-sensei? This really was turning into a troublesome A-rank mission. Well, at least it was in his home village. Basically, the way that our brains operate, we don't obtain every detail of what we experience with our senses. This is especially apparent for taijutsu users. It's something we try and enhance to the physical maximum. Some of the information we process goes to our subconscious. With the Nikiashi, you can basically, from what I've observed, conceal your presence in the unconscious mind of your opponent. That's basically what Naruto's doing. Kakashi's looking right at him, but he can't process the image. His eyes are following Naruto's every move. But the Nikiashi is tricking the brain into categorizing that information as unnecessary. Naruto's able to do this right up to the moment he makes an attack. At this moment, Kakashi won't be able to break free of the influence on his unconscious mind. Anko at that point looked shocked. This was indeed a powerful jutsu, but Kakashi has the Sharingan. Surely he could use that to counter the effects of this Nikiashi, right? Humming in thought, Guy shrugged. There's the possibility the Sharingan could help, but there's also the possibility that it would send even more information and confuse Kakashi even more. Kakashi has probably already figured this out. That's why he's hesitant to reveal his Sharingan eye. Unless he figures out how to counteract the effects of the Nikiashi, then this fight is going to end in a draw. Kakashi and Naruto, who were opposite each other again, were panting slightly. Kakashi, thanks to his better-than-normal hearing, was able to hear Guy's explanation, and was happy his original thoughts on the jutsu Naruto was using after the fourth and fifth time he found himself caught by surprise was accurate. Alright, then need to break the eye contact, and somehow make it so his stealthy steps aren't so stealthy and upset his breathing pattern. How annoying, you figured out my technique. Now what should I do? Open the gates or use the same power I did the night that I escaped the hospital. What do you think, Kakashi? Of all my opponents, you have survived the longest against the Nikiashi. I quite like that name. I think I'll keep it, Naruto asked as he flipped one of his knives and threw it at Kakashi, who ducked. Lifting up his headband and revealing his Sharingan, Kakashi gained a serious look in his eye. You not be as fast as your father, but with the Nikiashi you don't need to be that much. Is clear. It is also clear to me you are just as dangerous as the fourth Hokage. Now I shall take you seriously. Naruto at that point smirked. This is interesting, very interesting. Now you've truly got my attention. Last time I saw those eyes I was 5 years old and looking at a true inheritor of the Sharingan, he and him. Yes, I don't have much jutsu, this is true, but earn my respect, and in return you will go full power to with everything I have to defeat you, Kakashi. As Naruto said that, he forced open the gates of opening, healing and life without even trying, allowing him to be engulfed in an aura of murky black and blue chakra, with his shroud oddly taking a demonic appearance. Let us begin. This time Naruto didn't need the Nikiashi, since with his natural enhanced speed with opening the gates he simply appeared behind Kakashi, who was ready and blocked a sweeping kick that was aimed at his midriff, pushing him off to the side a little. Jumping into action, Kakashi was able to keep pace with Naruto for a while thanks to his experience and Sharingan before he landed a solid mutual blow to Naruto's chin while he copped a knee to the gut, throwing them away from each other. Getting back to their feet, Naruto growled, I will not lose, I refuse to lose. As he said that, the Tomo pattern spread across the right half of his body before continuing until his entire body was covered in the marks. He again disappeared and landed a haymaker against Kakashi, who went up in smoke, revealing it to be a shadow clone. TCH, a damn clone. Earth release, headhunter jutsu. Naruto, hearing that, found himself being dragged underground. He then saw Kakashi appear in front of him a second later. Using his strength, Naruto bulldozed his way out of the jutsu he was trapped in and lunging at Kakashi, lengthening his claw hands intent on ripping the man's throat out. Anko, who tensed at the sight of the curse mark, frowned a little as she held a hand sign. Wait, that's no ordinary curse mark. So that's what Orochimaru meant by failed. Looking at her friend from her crouched spot with her ninja hounds, Anko looked at her funny. What do you mean, Anko? How is that not an ordinary one? His chakra has gone through the roof, increasing already bloody huge reserves to begin with. It's monstrous. Orochimaru injects a little of his will and soul into the curse mark so as to manipulate the wielders of the power. By sealing his soul into fragments he can never truly die even if his body is destroyed. This, however, I'm not feeling any traces of Orochimaru at all. His chakra doesn't feel corrupt or foul, this is all Naruto. Somehow his chakra overpowered the snakes and destroyed the rot and decay of the mark, only giving the benefits, and not the downsides. The Uzumaki clan's vitality and life force is something to behold, she explained as she watched Naruto and Kakashi battle it out like two tanks. If Kakashi pulls this off and we take him back, I'm so telling the Hokage to make him a special jonin as a minimum. He would be utterly wasted as a genin. And with the Nikiashi, if he wanted he could have killed Shikamaru, Hana and I before hunting down the Umbu while they were distracted. Man, I'm happy the brat called for backup. Growling at not being able to land a decisive blow against the gray-haired man before him with their last bout leaving them both panting and quite tired, and Naruto could feel him coming to his limit with the gates, and if they wore out the curse mark would only be able to heal so much of the damage before fatigue would hit him. Unless he went to level 2 of the curse mark. But that was dangerous not only to his body but to his mind. It always made him feel less human, and people if they saw it would be even more frightened of him. I'm not going to lose here, I am a king. This is my home and you're all trespassing. RWAR. As he roared in defiance he lunged, and in mid-air did 2 hand signs before turning into a mammoth-sized wolf, and snapping his jaws at Kakashi who was about to stab him in the back with the kunai in an attempt to wound him, but as the bladed tool descended he transformed into a bear the size of Kingo, surprising Kakashi and batting him away with a large paw. Reverting back to his human form, Naruto was breathing quite hard. They were solid transformation, basically being the opposite of the Inuzuka clan's man-beast clone. Good shot, Naruto, you really surprised me with that one. But you're at your limit. Opening the gates burns through your chakra quickly and used in conjunction with the curse mark even more so, and those transformations must have been horribly taxing on your chakra, Kakashi said as he stepped out from behind a tree, having used the substitution jutsu to evade the bear paw. Kakashi then did some hand signs, water release, water prison jutsu, as he said that the Kakashi opposite Naruto disappeared as the Kakashi behind Naruto, having hidden under the ground, caught him in a water prison sphere. Naruto at this point was really tempted to go curse mark level 2, but he hated to do that. Looking at Kakashi he sighed, I give, you win, as he said that the prison disappeared and an Umbu promptly placed chakra cuffs on his wrists, stopping him from attacking. We'll take it from here, Kakashi, thanks for the help. Nodding, Kakashi dropped to one knee. Yeah, well, that fight took a lot out of me, he forced me to use Sharingan, take him to Lord Hokage. The Umbu nodded and Squad Phantom disappeared with Naruto appearing outside the center tower in the Forest of Death. Naruto sighed in exasperation. You guys know that old man Hokage's chakra isn't in that tower anymore, right? He finished with a wolfish grin. Umbu Rat, who was opening the door at the bottom, paused and turned to Naruto before silently urging the censor in his team to do his thing. That being the team censor formed a hand sign for a second before nodding. He's right, Lord Hokage isn't here. He must have thought it would take longer to capture Naruto. We should head for the Hokage tower. As the Umbu operative finished, Naruto felt himself riding shotgun in a body flicker again, which he had to admit played havoc with his stomach. As he was being forced to travel at immense speeds so suddenly and via the chakra expense of another, he thought it was probably best that he doesn't try to strike a conversation with them. Although given the first opportunity to, he would slip his cuffs and make a run for it. That was for sure. Getting to within sight of the Hokage's office, he was sure when he looked at the window he remembered looking out of a few times as a child when he still had the wild fantasy of becoming Hokage all those years ago. He was sure he saw the old man watching their advance. Thanks to his enhanced senses as well as the fact he was a natural sensor in of itself, Naruto picked up someone's aura and scent that he hadn't smelt in years. Rubbing alcohol, jasmine with an undertone of cigarette smoke. Aunt Sibby was close. And he kind of had to apologize for socking her in the head 9 years ago. Probably should apologize to the orderly that he had pushed, and the Umbu he had knocked out and left in the middle of the street. Using his enhanced strength gifted via his physically manifested Kekkei Genkai, Naruto, without using any chakra, snapped the cuffs that had a chain in the center connecting the 2 ceiling arrays, which allowed the cuffs to function properly, and tripped the Umbu that was holding his shoulder in one easy motion, making the bat fall into a pile of rubbish bags in a back alleyway. Grinning at his accomplishment, Naruto dashed towards the hospital with amazing grace and speed that it staggered the Umbu momentarily as they got over how easily Naruto had broke his bindings and tripped Bat up, who was pulling himself out of the pile of rubbish. That's it. Fourth Hokage's son or not, I'm going to kick his ass before teaching that little brat some proper respect. The other Umbu in the team, other than laughing silently at their teammates' declaration of petty revenge, had charged off in pursuit of the errant boy. Naruto, grinning and doing a spin in the air, saw his pursuers and flipped them off before accelerating a little bit more. Landing and skidding to a halt outside the hospital entrance, Naruto sniffed the air again before picking up the scent of cigarettes again and pushing the doors open, making everyone who was inside shy away from him. Ignoring their looks of fear for now, Naruto ignored the receptionist. Can I help you, sir? Finding the trail that the cigarette scent was coming from, Naruto dashed down a hallway just as the 4 Umbu appeared with Lizard shouting as he saw him disappearing around a corner. Naruto, get back here, the Hokage still needs to talk with you. He then realized where he was and looked around as he saw people begin to gossip excitedly at hearing who had returned to the village. Looking at his teammates, Lizard sighed, I'll go tell the Hokage where Naruto is. Weasel at that point just patted him on the shoulder. Yeah, you do that. As Lizard left, Bat arrived and got a joking remark from Weasel. Ah, nice of you to join us. Jog on, Weasel, was the only reply he got. Naruto came to a halt outside a wooden door that had a name tag on Dr. Tsugi Watanuki. Grabbing the handle, Naruto opened the door silently and crept in the room only to have to duck a kunai that embedded itself in the wall where his head had been mere seconds beforehand. He then heard the squeaking of a chair and looked up only to see the back of Tsugi's high-backed leather chair and her voice reach his ears from the other side. Someone's in so much trouble it's not funny. Naruto, gulping at the tone of voice he heard Tsugi using, one that he only heard when she spent an entire day tracking him down so as to give him a vaccine shot when he was 5. Yeah, she was pissed right about now. Standing and moving into the room a bit more, he heard her speak again, which was accompanied by a plume of smoke rising up from the chair, but he then felt himself be pulled into a hug from behind by a taller figure. I miss you, Naruto. Where have you been hiding all these years? Feeling like a toddler again, being wrapped in a hug by the only person he knew of other than the Hokage that liked him way back when, Naruto for the first time in years cried a little as he felt Tsugi rest her head on his shoulder. After a moment, Tsugi pulls away and bonks Naruto on the head. Idiot, you had me so worried, she said, before leading Naruto over to a couch in the corner of her office and sat him down before she pulled her chair out from behind her desk and sat opposite him with a clipboard. She then pressed a button on the side of her chair and made a couple trays pop out the arms with an array of tools that would be used for a normal checkup. Alright, it's been 9 years since your last checkup, so while I have you, I'm giving you a once-over. Groaning, Naruto glanced at the window slightly, something that Tsugi caught, and said in a chiding and warning tone, don't even think about it, Naruto. She then leant forwards with her otoscope in hand and moved Naruto's long out of the way of his ear and placed it in the ear cavity, and watched as her screen gave off some readings that made her frown somewhat strange. I don't ever remember you having hearing levels similar to the Inuzuka clan and K9's. Naruto at that shrugged. Well, my body mutated in the forest and gave me a physical passive Kekkai Genkai. Blinking at his statement at what he said, looked at him, ignoring the large scar that marred his face and chest. Naruto, a body doesn't just mutate and give someone a Kekkai Genkai. I've had shinobi channel chakra in their ears to cheat on their hearing tests. You're giving me similar results as they do. Shrugging, Naruto asked her about the first Hokage's scroll his rat friend had pilfered for him. Auntie, have you ever read the ever-changing ebb and flow of chakra written by the first Hokage? So that's where my scroll went. I always wondered what had happened to it. I thought I had just misplaced it. Anyway, of course I have read it. Lord Hashirama hypothesizes that like nature and time, chakra is the same, ever-changing. Which makes sense with it living inside a human body. Are you trying to tell me your hearing isn't the only thing that has changed? She said, gaining a shocked look at what Naruto was telling her. He was a medical miracle, smiling bitterly at the thought that the only reason he gained his abilities was because of what the village had done to him. Naruto nodded. That's exactly what I'm saying. My senses, all of them, enhanced. My nails turned to claws, my teeth became fangs. It became easier to speak with animals. My strength enhanced along with my agility and speed. And the biggest change, he then for emphasis grabbed one of his bone blades and stabbed his forearm, making Tsugi go wide-eyed, not at the fact he stabbed himself but because the blade hadn't even pierced the skin. My skin is tough as the hide of the rhinos that reside in Training Ground Zero and the Forest of Death. My body, it proved Hashirama's hypothesis is right. He paused, allowing Tsugi to note down all he said, seeing as though she was his doctor, and all. My genetic marker and code has completely changed. I've called my collective mutations the Shihai Kekkai Genkai because while I have physical changes, my chakra now carries the power to exert my will and dominance over all wildlife. Tsugi at this nodded and placed her clipboard down and gazed intently at her young charge. Before her 9 years you've been gone. Now you suddenly turn up in my office with an unidentified physical Kekkai Genkai, a large scar, and I know that dead look in your eyes. I see that look enough from shinobi who have killed and lost people dear to them. Where have you been? And why are you back now after so long being away? Smiling awkwardly, Naruto looked away. I lived the last 9 years in the Forest of Death. 4 of those was spent as the demon of the forest. I came because I met someone in the forest. But to do so I needed an escort to get me this far. So I purposely lost the fight to Kakashi and the ninja with him who were sent by the Hokage to retrieve me. I gave the Umbu who were taking me to the Hokage tower the slip and came straight here following the smell of rubbing alcohol, jasmine and cigarettes. Nodding, Tsugi smiled. She knew that Naruto knew there were a team of Umbu outside her office listening in on what they were talking about. I understand. There is something I want to tell you. Thufin, the day you were to wake up from your coma, you weren't going to go back to the orphanage, that much was certain. Village council be damned. I was going to take you home with me. I didn't get the chance to tell you then, so I'm telling you now. I officially adopted you, Naruto, all those years ago. Smiling a little at what she said, Naruto hugged the elder woman. Thank you for caring about me both back then and now. But right, all matters, all that's really important is that I get stronger to protect what little family I have left. Will you help me with that? Are you prepared to make the sacrifices and restrictions that come with getting stronger? Are you willing to risk it all just to have the chance at protecting your loved ones? Tsugi asked as she stood up. There was still time for Hiruzen to train Naruto as his apprentice and successor. And hey, she had trained and sparred with Tsunade back in the day and hold her own, so she could teach her kid a thing or two about taijutsu. nodding with a dangerous glint in his eye. Even if I have to become a shinobi of the village that scorns me, even if descend further into darkness and become more demon than human, I will sacrifice it all or die trying. And I'm a tough guy, and I can assure you I'm not easy to kill. Smirking at the boy who stood up, showing he wasn't too much shorter than her and relatively tall for his age, patted him on the head and pointed to a door near the back of her office. Good, go wash up thoroughly. I had a fully furnished bathroom installed for when I pull all-nighters. Use it. Nodding, Naruto walked off to the bathroom. As the door closed and the sound of running water could be heard, Sugi looked in the corner of the room. Well, Hiruzen, your hunch was spot on. He came to me first. I must admit I'm flattered that he came to me before you. You heard him, didn't you? He'll do everything in his power to protect his family, even become a shinobi of the village he believes still hates him. Sarutobi, appearing out of the shadows, tilted his hat forwards. There won't be any need for me to take him on as an apprentice. I'll have Jiraiya take care of that much, which of course will take Naruto out of the village, which will be good for him. Besides, I don't think having him in the village will be good for him. He has come out of that forest believing he is a demon and monster, and that the people of the village still hate him. I don't think he personally would be able to just cope with, to him, the sudden change in people's attitudes. Remember, he never realized that we thought he was the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, an oversight on my part. He also doesn't understand that the village council decided that a harsher treatment of him would toughen him mentally, so he would be up to the task of wielding the vow power of the Nine Tails. The old Hokage said as he placed a headband on Sugi's desk for Naruto. As of this moment, because of what I witnessed while he fought against my ninja in the forest, he is a probationary special jonin, whom I shall test in the Chunin exam preliminary round tomorrow and in the finals a month from then. Should he win his fights, then he will gain special jonin rank. Was he really that strong? Did he impress you so much with his fight against whomever you sent to retrieve him? Asked Sugi challengingly. The headband is his father's, and he exceeded all expectations, opening the gates, fighting on par with Kakashi for an entire fight, forcing my best and brightest to reveal his Sharingan before so. I admit his learning has holes in it, but I'm counting on you and Jiraiya to patch them up a little over the month break, was all the Kage said with his head bowed as he left the room. Smirking, she pulled out a cigarette and lit it. A ninja with no formal training, and all you're all but a special jonin, who has impressed his Hokage with a performance that has that old bag of bones kicking himself for ever letting harm befall you. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, she thought as she heard the water in the shower stop. Turning, she saw Naruto standing in the doorway clad in only a towel, struggling with his long hair. Can I have some help? Oh, usually helps me with all of this. Laughing silently at the sight she was looking at, nodded. Still, my boy grew up to be a fine young man. If any of the girls his age gets the same view as me at the moment, they would be going gaga over him. Getting behind him, she began to gather all of his hair before pulling the hair tie out of her hair along with her bobby pins. Yeah, this may take a while. Chapter 3, Chunin Exams, Explosive Reentry. Finding himself in the center tower of the Forest of Death, Naruto was stood across from the Hokage with a dark look on his face, and making sure his fangs were on display in this case. Ah, good, you finally arrived. Good, I've been waiting to brief you on the current situation. Allowing a smirk to appear on his face a little while still gazing darkly at the old Kage, who was staring impassively at him with his hat shadowing his eyes somewhat. I can't believe you, old man, still after all these years. You're still trying to control me. But let me make one thing clear. I despise this village. I loathe everything about it. The people I care not, what happens to them. The shinobi even less. I have no attachment, no love for this accursed village. Not even this farce of an adoption you allowed Andy to proceed with is enough for me. I will never come to this village's defense. For all I care, this village could burn and I wouldn't lift a finger. I'm not becoming a shinobi for you or this village. No, it's a means to an end for me, a way for me to obtain power. So, I can travel my chosen path. And when the day comes that I cast off the Leaf Village, you better make sure you stay the hell out of my way, he said darkly. Hiruzen just let a plume of smoke out of his mouth and continued looking at the probationary special jonin. The boy cut an imposing figure, not to mention he cleaned up well. Right now he was actually wearing some semi-tight black trousers and red open-toed sandals. His top was mesh underarmor with a blue kimono top left open and a white sash around his waist to finish off the look. His headband, he had Sugi sew onto the inner of the kimono top. He wasn't too thrilled about how the Hokage was manipulating everything from the shadows. He also didn't like the idea of being used as a publicity stunt during the finals to garner more income for the village. But then again, he always lived by the ends justify the means. Whatever makes you happy, Naruto. But remember, fill out the proper paperwork. I'd hate to have to label you as a missing ninja. Narrowing his eyes at the Hokage, Naruto rested his hands on the hilts of the two bone knives on each hip and continued to level a glare at Hiruzen, who returned the stare, without flinching away in the slightest. Breaking it off, Naruto headed to the door. Let's get this farce over with, shall we? By then he had left the room. Hiruzen just sat there and sighed. What have I just unleashed upon the village? Was all he could think as he watched the angry teenage Uzumaki, whose chakra levels were larger than any of the ninja in his village, himself included. God save whichever soul pisses him off. Getting into the training arena of the tower, where the preliminary rounds would be held. Naruto looked around and saw no one was present at the moment. Moving over to the statue at the far end, he walked into the shadows it cast, and hid himself leant up against the back wall and waited. He really hoped whoever he was pitted against they would give him some satisfaction and thrill. After all, prey that fought back made it all the more interesting for him. He didn't have to wait long. The first team to arrive was one from the hidden sand village. Not that he knew that. All he saw was a blonde girl around his age, a strangely dressed boy wearing face paint, and lastly a red-haired boy with a gourd on his back. Next to file in was a group of familiar faces: Hinata, Shino, Kiba, Ino, Choji, and Shikamaru. Seeing the shadow user walking about was rather annoying, but because he would have preferred not to see one of the people that was responsible for his unwanted return to the village. He then grinned a little evilly as he watched the musical note shinobi that he had rampaged through walk into the hall, being closely followed by some more leaf genin that he didn't recognize, although one of them was dressed identically to the elder shinobi that had been able to see through and name his Nukiashi technique. Waiting a little longer, he saw Sakura walk in with a limping Sasuke and some pasty-looking black-haired kid with a considerable limp, which was further accentuated by the splint on his leg, and not to mention his right arm was in a sling and splinted as well. Then there was one last genin team that had entered the room afterwards, which was a group of guys all wearing purple outfits. Dismissing them rather easily, although the gray-haired one of the group was rather off-putting to his sensory jutsu. Staying where he was, he waited to see what was about to happen. It had been a while after all since the Chunin exams had been held in the Hidden Leaf, with them having been held in all the other major nations and some minor ones in the previous years. To be honest, Naruto was rather interested at what was going down, but what he really hoped for was another fight that would get his blood boiling and for more people to catch his interest, and at the rate he was going he might start having to write a list out of people he would want to fight. As he stood hidden in the shadow of the wall by the statue, Naruto didn't so much as bat an eye when all the sensei appeared and lined up in front of the two clasped stone hands, while the exam proctor stood further in front flanking the old Hokage. While he was there he did smirk a little. It seemed Enko looked a little tender and was slightly hunched over. It seemed he had hurt her a little more than he thought, but what did he care? If she was going to aim for his head and neck and other vitals, well, he would just go with pulverizing her insides, as simple as that. First of all, congratulations on passing the second round of the Chunin exams. Oh, it seems the man who figured out my jutsu has a son in these exams. I wonder, it would be pretty fun to stomp him into the ground, thought Naruto as he watched the assembled genin, although his attention kept being drawn to the red head with the gourd on his back. He was just radiating with bloodlust that was intoxicating. He hasn't felt bloodlust like his in so long. Not since he was a scared little 6-year-old hiding in the forest. He might prove to be interesting. Might even be fun having a little fight with the short round. Alright, all of you pay attention. Lord Hokage is going to explain the third exam to you. Better listen, you maggots. Enko shouted before looking at the Sarutobi. Stepping forwards, the old Kage cleared his throat. First of all, before I tell you what the third exam entails, he then looked at the boy with a splinted leg and arm. Sigh, while it is admirable you came, I'm afraid the medical ninja who saw you just before entering has made it clear you are in no fit state to fight or compete any further. That being said, I have conferred with the diplomats and heads of each of the villages here, being the hidden sand and sound villages, and they have expressed that I am allowed to find a suitable replacement, an avatar for yourself in the upcoming third exam. They would hate for mediocrity to be allowed to perform in front of the daimyos and shinobi heads that attend the finals. At his words, Sai nodded and hobbled out of line before being picked up by a pair of medics and carted off. Hiruzen, who allowed the genin a chance to talk for a second, cleared his throat, letting them know he would be continuing to talk. He is to be replaced by Naruto Uzumaki, a genin of the Leaf Village. For those of you with concerns, I can assure you he was tested rigorously before this current time in events, something multiple jonin here can attest to. Naruto, annoyed that he was being hyped up by the Kage, allowed his own bloodlust and killer intent to radiate out from his body's hidden position, making many of the genin uncomfortable and look in the direction of the source. The red-headed sand ninja allowed a small malicious smile to form as he stared towards the corner where such bloodlust was making his mother stir. The Hokage and other jonin present, ignoring the fact that a genin had such a potent bloodlust, shifted a little. It was rather disconcerting to have that much bloodlust and killer intent coming from behind them. Hiruzen, clearing his throat, continued. Now also one other thing to address before I tell you of the third exam. I want to explain something about the test itself. It's something that you all need to understand. I'm going to tell you about their true purpose. Color me interested. What is the true purpose, old man? Go on, tell us. Naruto goaded mentally as he continued to stare at the old Kage. Why do you suppose our country holds these exams in conjunction with our allies? It is simple really, it's to raise the ability levels of the shinobi and increase friendship between allied nations, to be sure. But it is important that you understand its true meaning. The exams are in its simplest form a representation of the battle between allied nations. Oh, now that is interesting. War sounds like fun. There are more than enough people to hold my interest. And it would get me away from the village. Just think of what war brings to the nations. Yes, I like the sound of these Chunin exams more and more. He then heard a small girl with twin hair buns speak up. And what's that supposed to mean? Well, if we look at our history, all the countries we are currently allied with were once neighboring nations that continuously fought with each other for power, in order to stop each other from destroying the other military strength meaninglessly. Those nations pick champions to do battle on behalf of their countries, at a mutually selected location. That was how the Chunin exams originally came into being. Sakura at that point spoke up asking a question, a valid one Naruto had to admit. Then why are we doing these exams? It's not like we're picking Chunin to send off and fight. Well actually, there is no question that part of the point of these exams is to select shinobi worthy of becoming Chunin. That's just not the whole story. These exams also allow for a place where shinobi can carry the pride of their nation on their backs, and fight against other ninja for their very lives. Many leaders and people of prominence from various countries are invited to attend this exam as guests, and also possibly to seek shinobi to work for them. This exam could determine the course of your ninja career from here on out, and more importantly watch your battles and take note of the strengths that each ninja and each nation is developing. If there is a gap in power between the countries, the strong nations are inundated with job requests for their ninja and the opposite for those nations deemed weak. Therefore, the stronger the nation, the better chances of negotiation with neighboring countries. So, it is important to show how much military strength our village has. Naruto from his spot called out, spooking some people who had forgotten about him. Even so, why do we have to risk our lives for you and your village? It doesn't make any sense to me, but then again I don't have much attachment to this place. Quite simply, the country's strength is the village's strength. The village's strength is the shinobi's strength, and the true strength of the shinobi is only achieved when it is pushed to its limits, such as in a life and death situation. This exam is a chance for each nation to display the strength of its shinobi, and by default the strength of the nation itself. It is because this is an exam where your life is on the line that it has meaning, and it is for this very reason and for the strength of the nation that your forerunners fought in this exam. It is truly a dream worth striving for. Wait, why did you use the word friendship before? Ten asked. But you have only remembered half of what I said. You also mustn't have the wrong idea about the exam's meaning. This is a custom in which balance is preserved by fighting and dying. In the world of the shinobi, that is friendship. The third exam is a fight for life. The pride of your village and own dreams at stake now to get onto the third exam. As he said that, a man landed in front of the Hokage kneeling. Lord Hokage, before you do, please allow me, Hate Gecko, to speak first. Very well, do as you please. It's nice to meet you all. There is something I need you all to do before the third exam. He then had a slight coughing fit before continuing. Before we go on, like Lord Hokage alluded to earlier, we're going to have a preliminary round before the third exam. Chuckling to himself, Naruto was sorely tempted to jump into the middle of the group of genin, and roll through them just to thin the herd out, seeing as though that was what the jonin was getting at. It was laughable. He would love to get his hands on the sound ninja. He had a bone to pick with them. Why he didn't kill them was beyond him. He hated seeing people he had beaten more than once. It just wasn't right. And as he thought, there were certain people who weren't happy with the thought of a preliminary round, and also like he thought Shikamaru was very vocal about the whole thing. How lazy could the Nara be? Well, you see, the first and second exams might have been too easy. The fact is, we never expected so many of you to still be here. According to the rules of the Chunin exams, a preliminary round can be held at any stage in order to reduce the number of candidates remaining. While it isn't wholly fair on all of you, it's just that we have to speed things up a bit. As Lord Hokage said, a lot of important guests will be watching. We can't afford to waste their time. They've come to see only the best. So if there are any of you who feel they are not in any fit condition to continue on like Sai was earlier, you are free to leave. The winners will be determined by sudden death single combat. Naruto watched from the shadows, still not feeling the need to move, although his hand was itching for his bone knife. He could probably pick off a genin right now and shave the numbers down again. It would be fine. Nowhere in the rules did it say he couldn't make a preemptive strike, did it? Naruto then paused as he saw Sasuke grip his left shoulder. Oh, he has the same thing that I have. Interesting, another curse mark user. He then heard Anko reprimanding Kakashi on the curse mark. Chuckling, he walked out into the open, surprising a few and making the sound ninja gulp and look in fear. You shouldn't worry, Anko. Nature has its way of determining those who survive. His time will come when his time comes. But until then, it would be more interesting to see what happens. Yes, much more interesting. Anko, seeing the kid who had managed to slap her around a little bit the day before, shot him a dirty look. Tell me something, do you really doubt everyone's ability to handle a genin? Let him have his fun. I can see it in his eyes. He has something to prove. Yes, something to prove. HM. He chuckled a little before nicking the side of Anko's neck and using his nukiashi to appear in front of her, holding her arms. While the woman stiffened in surprise, he then went to where the cut was and licked the thin trail of blood. Oh, your fear makes your blood taste so sour. HM. Stepping away and not once perturbed by how some of the people were looking at him, threw his hand up and caught the blade of his bone knife as it was thrown back at him. Having been caught by a Biki who was somewhat amused by the look on Anko's face at someone doing her niche thing to her, it was good knowing you, Uzumaki. The scarred man shook his head as he watched Kabuto leave the room. Naruto, getting bored again, walked off and sat underneath the hands of the statue and yawned. Ignoring the looks he was receiving from various people, having watched the first fight, Naruto decided it would be better to move further up the hand statue and decided to sit on top of the first set of fingers that he came across. It was all rather annoying, really. The only reason he moved was purely because some dust and few stone chips had come and clattered across the stone floor towards him. But other than that, he was quite disappointed with Sasuke's performance. It was all rather childish. although he had really thought he sensed blood in the water, so to speak, when he saw the curse mark begin to spread. But his entertainment was ended prematurely when, somehow being a virgin user of the curse mark, Sasuke managed to suppress the influence it would most likely have on him already. The second match was rather entertaining only because it was the sound ninja that he had stabbed in both arms and the shoulder joints. He was highly amused when the guy's arms were blown apart because he hadn't noticed that Shino had clogged the modifications in his arms. But other than that, he was kind of bored. Where was the bloodshed? This was supposed to be a simulation for war, right? And these were only the opening skirmishes. He wanted some blood to be spilt, he wanted to see someone die already. 2 fights and no fatalities, what was this? After the second match he was really considering going and finding Sasuke, just to goad him about such a lame performance. Possibly challenge Kakashi or something. All these fights were so boring. Who was he kidding? The Hokage had Umbu all over the area, including the one that had been shadowing him since he left Sugi's office the evening before. While their presence wasn't a hindrance, it was kind of annoying. That much was certain, and that coupled with the fact word had apparently spread that he was back in the village, he had people calling him Lord as he walked down the street towards the Uzumaki compound, which he moved into, saying he would rather sleep in an isolated area away from the villagers. The third fight was rather interesting now that he thought about it. Quick and boring, he should say, but it was interesting in the fact that the Sand Ninja had killed one of the Leaf Genin from that gray-haired freak's team, snapping his back. It was kind of fun to see, really. He rather enjoyed seeing Leaf Shinobi die. After all, one little Genin wasn't a big loss, and he couldn't really call the Sand Shinobi skilled or not. He was a puppet user, it would be rather fun to fight him, he guessed. The fourth fight had made his blood boil in rage, pure and simple. And in the end, it was a double knockout. No real-life battle ended in a draw. Now he was really mad. And he really wanted to punch something. No, better yet, he needed to kill something, otherwise he wasn't sure what might happen. What were they teaching at the academy? Sakura and Ino were so pathetic he was willing to go down there and knock them both out himself had they not done it. The fight following was boring. Nothing really happened other than the imitation of Guy, the man who had picked apart his jutsu, got mad with the Sand Ninja Temari. It was rather funny, but at the same time sickeningly heartwarming. How was it people were given unconditional love and friendship without doing anything other than being themselves, while he had suffered under the oppression of the village, along with being vilified for something he was too young to have ever been a part of? It made him sick. Oh, if he was paired up with that Rock Lee kid, he was going to pulverize him into the ground. And he couldn't wait for that to happen. After that boring and quick kunoichi match, Naruto had to sit through yet another snooze fest where Shikamaru dodged a few needles, nearly succumbed to genjutsu right before catching the female Sound Ninja Kin with his shadow and making her knock herself out on the arena wall. How boring! Why wouldn't anyone give him the satisfaction he wanted in a fight? He wanted to see some bloodshed, some brutality. Yet no one was up to the task of giving it to him. All of a sudden, while he was lounging about on the fingers of the statue observing the red-headed Sand Shinobi who was looking like he wanted to kill something, Naruto heard his name. Would Naruto, Uzumaki, and Rock Lee make their way to the arena, please? Eyes lighting up and getting a grin on his face, he looked over towards the stands and saw Rock Lee somersault into the arena. Leveling a dark glare on the green-clad shinobi, Naruto dropped off the edge of the statue and landed softly on the ground. Oh, you can't imagine how long I've waited to fight. All these previous fights have made my blood burn with anger at the pathetically low caliber the villagers think is acceptable nowadays. I really hope you can satisfy my hunger, Rock Lee. HMHM. He chuckled as he pushed some of his hair out of his face. Lee, who was standing across from him, gulped a little. His sensei had briefly warned him to fight smart before he had jumped down, and he wasn't sure what to make of Naruto, who was stood so casually opposite him with a hand in one of his pockets. I'm glad to face you, Naruto. I knew sooner or later we would meet in battle, and I can say I'm glad it's sooner. Before anyone could react, a bone knife shot out of Naruto's sleeve. Lee, seeing this, caught the knife. Why are you in such a hurry? As he said that, he dropped the knife on the ground, ignoring the fact that the tip had been tickling the flesh on his cheek. Naruto at that began spinning another of his knives in his hand. Hate, seeing that they were both itching to fight, put his hand up in the air. Alright then, if you're both ready, begin. As he said that, Naruto, who had been the whole time getting his breathing technique going along with making sure his stance was correct, exploded forwards at the same time as Lee had. Lee jumping in the air. Leaf Hurricane. Comfortable that his Nukiashi had taken effect, Naruto jumped as well and appeared right next to Lee and smirked. Imperial Gutbuster. As he said that, Lee, who was in mid-kick, was collected by Naruto's knee driving into his stomach. Fortunately, he specialized in taijutsu and was able to send a backhand towards Naruto's head, who, using his enhanced agility that his Shirhai Kekkei Genkai afforded him, bent his body out of the way and landed on the ground, while Lee himself slid back, holding his stomach a little from where he received the knee. Grinning, Naruto stretched a little and yawned before slightly jumping on the spot. Not bad, you managed to get a glancing blow on my hair. I applaud you. Other than Kakashi and Anko, you have to be the first person in 4 years to actually get a good hit on me. But now it's my turn to start, and I'm going to enjoy pulverizing you into the dirt. You can try, and I welcome the challenge. Your taijutsu is excellent, Lee said as he was about to spring forth, only to have Naruto appear right in front of him with his claws on his fingers extended. Imperial Slash. As he said that, he brought his claws down in a raking motion, Luckily Lee, being as fast as he was able to block Naruto in the forearm area and kick off backwards, only to be instantly hounded and surprised again by Naruto appearing this time to his left, attempting to get inside his guard. Guy up in the stands was clenching his teeth and gripping the railing as he watched what was going on, while the genin were somewhat amazed by what they were seeing, considering it was at such a high speed. Sakura, seeing Guy act the way he was, looked at Kakashi, who was also watching intently. "Kakashi-sensei, what's going on?" Guy-sensei looks nervous all of a sudden. Sighing, Kakashi slouched a little more. "Well, Sakura, as he is now, and as great as he is at taijutsu, Lee's fighting an uphill battle and is very likely going to lose this fight. Unless he can figure out how to break free of Naruto's technique, then I'm afraid it's all over." "What, you can't be serious? Naruto didn't use any hand signs. What sort of technique is he using?" she asked, astonished as she looked at her sensei quickly before looking back at the battle. Naruto, hearing where the conversation was going, growled he didn't need the whole goddamned world knowing how his technique functioned. Reaching into his pocket and grabbing some of the gravel he had been idly playing with while waiting for his turn to fight, threw it in Lee's face, making him try and protect his eyes, while Naruto planted both his feet into Lee's chest and propelling him backwards. Reaching down to his belt where his bone knife was, he spun and threw it to the left of where Kakashi's head was. Kakashi, having already figured the knife wasn't going to hit him, simply stood there while Sakura and the other genin gasped in shock, including the foreigners and Lee, who was getting back to his feet. My, someone's a little touchy about me telling my cute little student about your technique." Naruto, breathing relatively hard, which was mirrored by Lee, who looked a lot worse than Naruto due to being hit more times, and this being the second time he had been dropped onto the ground. "I'm sick of people revealing my technique to others. If they can't figure it out, tough. They can die when I fight them, for all I care." Turning around and leaving it at that, Naruto stared down Lee, who had jumped to the top of the hand statue, hoping to gain some respite from the constant onslaught of taijutsu that was relentless and of high caliber. Looking at his sensei, he saw Guy nod. "Take them off, Lee." Still staring at Lee, he saw the green-clad boy salute his sensei. "But Guy-sensei, you said only to take them off as a last resort, or when protecting the lives of very important people." "That's right, I did, but this is an exception," the elder male said while giving a thumbs up. Gaining a look of joy, Lee smiled happily. Really. Naruto watched as Lee removed his leg warmers and then the leg weights that were underneath. "It's gonna take more than dropping a few pounds to beat me, kid. Face it, you can't defeat me. Concede and I'll consider being merciful to you." At that point, Lee dropped the weights, which Naruto watched before looking a little shocked when they made the stone below explode in a shower of rubble. "This is getting interesting. Who would have ever thought that a genin was going to prove to be such amazing entertainment for me? Come on, Lee, you've garnered my interest." As he said that, Lee disappeared from his sight. Seeing the green shinobi appear, Naruto jumped backwards away from the punch that was coming his way. "What amazing speed! I'm going to have to open the first gate." As he said that, he opened the gate of opening and immediately feeling the extra boost in chakra and speed, allowing him to keep up a little better than before. But it was clear to him that Lee was going to have the upper hand at least for a while. "Yes, show me more, Rock Lee, show me more. This is really getting my blood pumping, ahahaha." Cackling like a madman, Naruto reached for the back of his belt and pulled out 2 short bone knives. Well, if Lee was going to move at impossible to see speeds that only his enhanced senses were just keeping up with, then he was going to block with blades and prevent the pesky, yet interesting little genin from getting close. Deciding for now to go on the defensive and continuously dodge the green-clad shinobi, as it was getting rather hard to keep on countering the taijutsu user who had much more technique and formal training than himself. As he was, Naruto frowned as he could feel a wave of fatigue wash over him from having used the first gate for so long. In this instant, he lowered his guard slightly. Realizing his mistake as soon as it was made, Naruto tried to find the leaf shinobi, only for him to appear below him. Well, he only found him when a foot hit him on the bottom of his chin, making him float up off the ground. Looking down at Lee, who was below him, Naruto became a victim of a series of upwards kicks, throwing his body further and further off the ground. Troublesome, this might actually hurt, were the original thoughts running through his head at the time of fifth kick hitting him. Although as he was being hit, Naruto smirked a little, which went unseen by Lee, who closed his eyes in pain. Just as the last kick was delivered and bandages were wrapped around him, feeling the taijutsu ninja who had pushed him so far and hit him so much, Naruto found himself spinning rapidly towards the arena floor, as Lee let out a yell of victory, announcing his jutsu. Front Lotus, hitting the ground with an explosion of rubble and dust from the rubble. Naruto, at the last moment possible, had cut some of the bandages wrapped around his body with the knives that were still in his hands and substituted just before the impact. Something Lee didn't notice as his eyes closed again halfway down the descent to the ground. Appearing underneath the hands of the statue, Naruto watched as Lee jumped away from the wreckage and, along with the rest of the audience, gasped at only seeing a completely shredded log where his body should be. Chuckling darkly, Naruto gave away his position to everyone else. "I was right, my interest in you has provided me with ample entertainment, HM. But now I can see your body is racked with pain, your lotus comes at price. Now it's time to end it, you can hardly move, just how I like my prey." As he said that, Naruto tapped into his own curse mark and allowed his body to slowly become covered in the Tomo markings. Grinning sadistically, Naruto appeared in front of Lee. "It's over." As he said that, he planted a fist in the side of Lee's head and sent him skittling across the floor. Watching as Lee tried to stand, Naruto grinned and swooped him before kicking the hapless shinobi across the arena, which only happened because whatever defense he made with his arms Naruto blew through effortlessly at the valiant attempt to stave off his onslaught, which was about to continue in earnest. Again, appearing in front of Lee, who was sat up against one of the walls, Naruto kneed the kid in the gut, throwing him up against the reinforced concrete, cracking it. Stepping back, Naruto grinned at the green-clad boy. "Oh, you're still standing. I could have sworn I felt some ribs cracking with that last shot." Throwing a punch forwards, Naruto frowned as the boy he was fighting rolled himself out the way, which he did again when avoiding an axe kick from the red-haired Uzumaki. Deciding to be nice, Naruto allowed Lee a little respite to catch his breath before sending him skittling again across the ground. Watching as the boy stood up on still shaky legs and covered himself with his arms, Naruto chuckled darkly. "What good do you think that'll do?" Appearing in front of the guy Mini-Me, Naruto grabbed him by the throat and slammed him into the ground before stomping on the boy's stomach, making him scream out in pain. Stepping away from the boy and allowing him to stand up. Staring off with the boy, Naruto noticed some fire come back into the defeated-looking gaze that just wouldn't give in to his unrelenting force. Going forwards with another punch, this time foregoing the Nikiashi technique he had been employing throughout most of the battle, Naruto looked intrigued as Lee dodged around a series of his punches and kicks. Interesting, very interesting. Chasing after the boy in annoyance, as he dodged his attacks, obviously having learned it was painful to try and block him. He's smiling, and where's this energy coming from? Stopping his assault on the little leaf genin, Naruto regarded him carefully as the boy started to be covered in a shroud of chakra. "Oh, you can open the 8 inner gates like me. Interesting. The 3rd gate, Gate of Life, open. The 4th gate, Gate of Pain, open." Even more chakra poured off of Lee. Frowning at the implication of what was about to happen, Naruto decided that he wouldn't open his remaining 2 gates just yet, and he was yet to fully cover his body in the tomo pattern, which was only over his right side. He needed an ace in the hole, as Shino would say. He was pretty confident that his body could take a beating, but that being said, it would be cutting it awfully close, and he would need the healing properties of the full body curse mark pattern, and if he really needed to open the 2nd gate to get an added chakra boost. As Naruto finished his line of thoughts, he braced himself as Lee rocketed towards him, breaking the ground as he ran, before kicking Naruto with his full force under the chin, lifting him off the ground again. Looking around for the green shinobi, Naruto started to channel his chakra around his body in an attempt to harden the most likely spots he would be blindsided by the ultra-fast Lee, which did happen. Naruto grimaced as he had heavy blow after heavy blow rained down on his body from all directions, throwing him about like a pinball. Can't see him. So, this is the power of the 4th gate being opened. My body can't withstand this pounding, but if I'm this bad a shape, how badly is, what? Okay. 5th gate open. What? As he said that, Naruto was hit by the hardest punch he's ever been on the receiving end of, which sent him spiraling down towards the ground at amazing speed. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up from this. Naruto then all of a sudden felt the sash around his waist being pulled and looked up, having closed his eyes, bracing for the imminent impact on the ground. Now to finish it, Hidden Lotus. As he said it, Naruto's eyes widened as he was pulled upwards as a foot and fist embedded in his torso, plunging him down into the ground. Hitting the ground with tremendous force, Naruto at the last second was able to angle his body slightly so he would skim along it a little bit before hitting the ground, although the initial impact still made him scream in silent agony as he was sure something might have broken, but he wasn't entirely sure himself. Bouncing, Naruto impacted against the wall of the arena. Having left a large spiderweb crack in the wall, Naruto pushed the curse seal to cover more of his body and try and heal as much of the damage as possible. Lying on the ground for a while, Naruto lay in absolute agony as the curse mark healed him. He's dead. I'm going to kill him. I can't believe I let him hurt me this much. I promised myself I would never lose. There's no way I'm losing here, not today, not against him. Never, I refuse. A king doesn't simply lose to some genin trash. Seeing Hate walking over towards him, Naruto looked around from his spot on the ground and saw Lee was struggling to move at all. Seeing Hate stop a short distance away, Naruto spoke, surprising everyone present who thought he was out cold. 2nd gate, Gate of Healing, open. As he said that, a small shroud of chakra erupted around him, along with kicking up more dust and causing the ground to crack and crumble at his power-up. Getting to his feet, Naruto leant against the wall with blood coming out of his mouth, as well as his blue kimono top being ripped and torn. Now I'm angry. This was accentuated by him smashing a portion of wall to rubble with his fist. Advancing on Lee, Naruto smiled sadistically before appearing in front of the boy and stomping on his left ankle, eliciting a scream of pain which was accompanied by the sound of bones snapping. Naruto then lifted his other foot up and stomped on Lee's other leg, getting another scream and snapping noise. Stepping over the boy, Naruto grabbed him by the front of the shirt and lifted him up a little. Concede this fight. I won't ever give up. Don't be a fool, give up. Both your legs are broken, your muscles ripped to shreds. I admit if your muscles were intact you may be able to stand and fight. You can't do anything in your condition. Give up. Never. Just give up. You fought, and you lost. Don't make this harder than it already is. Because I can assure you I am far from done. Just give up. Lee just shook his head. Growling in frustration, Naruto shouted as he reared his fist back, intent on snapping the boy's neck with the next punch. Why won't you give up already? As he was about to deliver the punch, he was pulled off him by Guy, who then stood in front of Naruto. Why, what has he ever done to deserve your love? Why is it everyone but me gets the love of a family, love of friendship? Why? He lost, he's weak, yet you coddle him. Why was it that when I was weak and unable to protect myself, all I got was scorn and hate? It's not fair. What have I done to deserve such treatment? Naruto began yelling at Guy before looking around at all the Leaf Shinobi present. You're all doing it again, looking at me with those cold glares. What did I do? I fought like the old man told me to. So why? Guy standing calmly looking at the hurt and upset boy before him. Because he's my student, and also because he is precious to me. Scowling, Naruto turned around and looked at the Hokage. I'm done. What was I thinking, fighting for the likes of you like a circus animal? At that he reached into his kimono top and ripped the head plate off the inside that had the leaf symbol on it and threw it at the old man. I quit. After that he stalked out of the arena, which was left hushed by what had just happened. Except for when Lee got to his feet, surprising everyone including Guy, who turned around. Naruto at that point waited by the entrance to see what was going on. Guy, going over to Lee and placing a hand on his shoulder, looked concerned and sounded concerned as well. No, Lee, it's alright. It's all over now. Anyway, you're in no condition to fight. He then paused as he looked at Lee's face, allowing a tear to fall from his eyes. Lee, oh Lee, what have I done? At that he started crying openly. Look at you, not even conscious and still determined to show the world what you can do. Lee, you've already proven it. You are a splendid ninja. Gazing at the duo of taijutsu users in the middle of the arena, Naruto called out. Hey old man, throw me my headband back. His voice echoing around the arena made people look at him for a moment before he held his hand up and caught the piece of metal flying towards him. He then looked at Guy and spoke up. For what it's worth, that was one of the hardest fights I've ever been in. He'll always be worthy of the name Shinobi, for he has endured a lot to get where he has today. Tell him to train harder, to attain new limits of ability, and then when he has hovered between the border of life and death, then and only then will I face him as my equal. With his piece said, Naruto walked out of the room. Walking out of the building, he felt himself become surrounded by Umbu and sighed. Do I really look like I'm in any condition to fight you all? As he said that, he continued walking through the forest, knowing full well the creatures of the forest knew to stay away. While he was walking, he had Toki pad up alongside him. With his shoulders reaching Naruto's own shoulders, he was quite the large beast. Patting the wolf on the head, he smiled at the large wolf. Seems I'll be leaving the forest for a long time, friend. You're always welcome to join me. All he got in return was the large beast shaking his head and making a few growling noises. I see, very well then. Perhaps we'll see each other again in the future. As he said that, Toki nudged the boy in the side and bounded off into the forest again. The walkout was a silent one. But truth be told, he was in agony. The curse mark and opening the second gate had taken it out of him, and it seemed he had some internal damage from the last attack he had suffered. But if he let the curse mark's influence fade, then he knew he would collapse on the ground. Still, with the second gate open, Naruto pushed his aching and pain-induced body into an all-out sprint that made him but a blur of speed to everyone, and the hospital neared at an ever-quickening degree. Getting to outside the hospital, Naruto allowed the curse mark to fade along with feeling the two gates he had opened close. With the last of his strength, he pushed the door to the hospital open, and right before collapsing on the ground, Umbu's squad war dog, who had stayed tailing Naruto while the other Umbu went to do a village-wide sweep of the area, appeared by his side with the boar masked one of the group shaking Naruto's shoulder. Lord Uzumaki, Lord Uzumaki. The commotion had garnered the attention of a nurse who came running over to them. Naruto, looking through his hair at the woman with clouded eyes, groaned. Help me. Stirring and opening his eyes, Naruto groaned a little as he heard the sound of beeping and the smell of antiseptic and rubbing alcohol. How he hated the hospital. Other than Sugi's office, the place held a lot of bad memories for him. Memories he would prefer to keep buried in the past, never to come back and haunt him again. Brushing some of his hair out of his face, Naruto sat up and crossed his legs in the middle of the bed before looking over at Sugi, who looked like she had half a mind to call him an idiot or to simply hug him. Although he wasn't sure if he liked either option, to be perfectly honest. The other day when she had hugged him, it took all his self-control not to turn around and slug her one. How long was I out for, Tsugi? And since when do you wear glasses? He asked as he rubbed his head. Man, Rock Lee knew how to punch when it counted, there was no doubt about that. Sighing and adjusting her glasses, something of a novelty, as she normally wore contact lenses. About 4.5 hours, Naruto. And if you must know, my eyes were feeling irritated today, so that's why I have glasses on. Not that it matters, she said as she walked forwards with her arms crossed and holding a clipboard in one hand. She then sat on the edge of the bed opposite Naruto and pointed her clipboard at a sleeping figure in a chair by the hospital room window. And who is that little cutie that burst in here 3 hours ago and forced you to bite her arm, which I might add is the only reason your injuries healed so quickly, since whatever she did boosted your Uzumaki vitality. Looking over at the small red-dressed girl with funny hairstyle, something he didn't notice 2 days ago when he saved and kidnapped her. Smiling softly at the near-complete stranger who was his cousin, and the only person other than possibly Tsugi to show him any form of affection without a price. Her name's Karen Uzumaki. My cousin. What if Naruto awakens the soul bloodline in the Forest of Death harem? and thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.